Chapter 9:13. Smashing the bag with force. Was this also a cooking method? He had never seen such a method before. Chu Chongqing slightly furrowed his brows, revealing a trace of surprise. Bu Fang actually wanted him to smash the bag with all his strength? It was such a fragile bag. If he punched it, the bag would probably explode and the ingredients inside would splatter out as well. Thinking about that scene made him feel awkward. Thus this matter. Chu Chongqing was still a little hesitant, and he couldn't do it. Nether King Ha was very curious. There was such a simple and clear cooking method? Did it mean that he, Hades Era, could cook dishes in the future? The black spicy strip from before was a stain on Hades Era's heart. It wasn't something that a human could eat. The old man fell into deep thought. Looking at the bag, he furrowed his brows. The wrinkles on the old man's face slightly trembled. After thinking for a while, his eyes brightened. Owner Bu, do you plan to use violent smashing to make the taste inside fuse with the ingredients? Bu Fang looked at the old man in astonishment. He didn't expect the old man to understand the principle behind this. However, the old man clearly understood a little. This method sounded simple, but it was actually very difficult to execute. But can this bag withstand Little Chu's punch? Little Chu's cultivation base isn't weak. With one punch, he can destroy a house. Just smash it. If it breaks, it's on me. Regarding the old man's worries, Bu Fang patted his chest as a guarantee. If the bag produced by the system could be easily smashed by Chu Chongqing, then he would have ascended to the heavens. Owner Bu seems to be very confident. Or are you not confident in this old man's fist? Chu Chongqing looked at Bu Fang's confident expression, and a wave of anger rose in his heart. No matter what, Chu Chongqing could be considered a sect master-level existence. Since he had fused with the Taoye's heart, his physical strength was extremely formidable. With a single punch, he could smash that bag into smithereens. It's not that I'm looking down on you, but you really can't break it. Bu Fang looked at Chu Chongqing, twitching the corners of his mouth. In fact, he didn't want to tell the truth. Chu Chongqing took a deep breath. He didn't say anything else. It seemed like he really had to show off his skills. Looking at the transparent bag in front of the dining table, Chu Chongqing raised his hand. Bu Fang looked at him indifferently. Hades Era watched with great interest. The old man stroked the tuft of white hair on his head with great interest. If Chu Chongqing's palm hit the bag and it exploded, wouldn't Owner Bu's face look good? Hades Era and the old man stole a glance at Bu Fang. They suddenly felt a little excited. Owner Bu. I'll smash it then. Chu Chongqing swallowed his saliva, turning his head to look at Bu Fang, speaking solemnly. Smash it. Don't be afraid, just smash it boldly. Bu Fang rubbed his nose. Chu Chongqing couldn't help but snort inwardly. It seemed Owner Bu had underestimated him. If that was the case, explode it, little bag. Chu Chongqing's eyes shrank. His palm suddenly slapped the bag. With a swooshing sound, it seemed to tear the air. With a loud bang, the palm landed solidly on the dining table. The dining table shook, making squeaking noises. In the kitchen, Xiao Bai's ash-gray eyes twinkled. Lightning seemed to be moving in his eyes. Troublemakers will be stripped as an example to others. Xiao Bai's head popped out, his mechanical voice echoing. Chu Chongqing was a little embarrassed, looking at Xiao Bai. I'm playing with Owner Bu. After explaining, Xiao Bai returned to the kitchen. Chu Chongqing raised his hand. On the table, the bag was still intact, and the cabbage inside didn't have any drastic changes. Bu Fang glanced at it, sighing. No, you're still too weak. He didn't smash it? Chu Chongqing's face reddened, and his silver hair cascaded down his face. It's an accident. This bag is really tough. Owner Bu, give me another chance. Chu Chongqing said seriously. It seemed Bu Fang wasn't joking. He could smash this bag as he pleased. If so, he wouldn't be polite. Okay. Bu Fang nodded. What's the harm in giving Chu Chongqing another chance? Let's go outside. We don't want Mr. Bai to misunderstand again, Chu Chongqing said. He grabbed the small bag and walked out of the restaurant. Bufang didn't mind. He clasped his hands, following him. In the restaurant, Hades' Era and the old man were curious. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, opened his eyes, yawning. Xiao Hua, on the other hand, widened his eyes and ran out to watch the show. Of course, you wouldn't miss this chance to join in the fun. As the Heavenly Secret Holy Land Saintess, the Heavenly Secret Saint Master had asked her to go to the Heavenly Secret Holy Land's base to teach many disciples. She hadn't returned yet. Otherwise, with that woman's personality, she would have thrown a punch. A group of people walked to the restaurant. The passers-by were attracted by them. Chu Chongqing placed the transparent bag with the cabbage on the ground, signaling the others to step back and make space. True energy twirled around Chu Chongqing's body. A moment later, light shot out from his eyes. His body enlarged and his muscles bulged. In just a blink of an eye, he had become a 3-meter-tall giant. Roar! Chu Chongqing roared. His silver hair was like steel needles piercing through the air, making the air explode. His eyes turned, falling on the bag on the ground. Chu Chongqing clenched his fists. Then, he opened his mouth. His muscles were like dragons, as tough as steel. He raised both of his hands, pounding the transparent bag on the ground. His speed was so fast that it seemed like the air was about to be smashed. The surrounding people were startled, taking in a breath of cold air. What was he doing? With such a huge force, the bag on the ground would be smashed through, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that bag be smashed into pieces by Chu Chongqing? What's the point? Boom! Everybody was shaken. They felt the ground shake, and a wave of energy rippled out. The ground caved in. Intense fluctuations emerged, and patterns spread out densely. Chu Chongqing, who had become a 3-meter-tall giant, was so strong that he could smash a small mountain with his bare hands. His power was displayed to the fullest, making the surrounding people exclaim in admiration. However, Bufang shook his head regretfully. Hades' Era and the old man also sighed. That bag was still intact. Chu Chongqing, who had turned into a giant, took several steps back. He reached out his hand, pulling out the transparent bag that was stuck in the ground. He found that the bag was still intact, without a single crack or damage. I can't break it? Chu Chongqing, who had turned into a giant, was dumbstruck. His body shrank, returning to his youthful appearance. However, his face was a little embarrassed. Interesting. Let me give it a try. The old man was a little curious. He stepped forward, took the bag from Chu Chongqing's hand, and put it on the ground. Then, he took a deep breath. Buzz, the old man's cultivation base was so strong that the surrounding spirit energy seemed to sweep toward his body. Then, the old man raised his fist. True energy gathered in his body, as if it had turned into a roaring beast shadow. A punch pounding. The ground instantly trembled, and it caved in again. This time, a half-circle was formed. The surrounding people screamed in surprise. This old man, who looked so old, was actually that strong? Owner Boo's items are really mysterious. I'm old, so I can't break it. The old man's figure floated out of the deep pit. He held the intact bag in his hand and said with a wry smile. Bufang looked at the bag. The cabbage, the abyssal chili sauce, and the other seasonings had started to merge. However, it was still far from Bufang's expectation. Let I do it. Hades' Era chewed for a while, finishing the spicy strip in his mouth. He rolled up his sleeves, his face excited. Hades' Era was also excited to be able to participate in cooking. Especially since it was such a unique cooking method, Hades' Era was even more excited. The old man glanced at Hades' Era, and his eyes brightened. He casually threw the small bag to Hades' Era. Era caught it. The cabbage in the bag was a little warm. Apparently, the old man and Chu Chongqing's attack had some effect. Bufang, young man, if I break this bag, will you deduct I's spicy strip? Hades' Era squinted, asking. No, if you can break it, I'll give you 3 spicy strips, said Bufang, clasping his hands. Oh, Bufang young man, you're really arrogant, aren't you? Don't forget how awesome I am. Looking at Bufang's confident appearance, Nether King Erha's eyes narrowed, and the hair on his head fluttered. In the next moment, he suddenly tossed the small bag into the air, and dense nether energy spread out from his body. His hand swung. Thousands of strands of nether energy gathered, turning into a giant palm that covered the sky. That palm had terrifying pressure, as if it wanted to smash the entire valley of gluttony. It was a terrible feeling, as if it was the end of the world. In the restaurant, Lord Go couldn't help but open his eyes. This clown. Crazy again? Boom. Rumble. As the palm slapped, everybody felt as if they had been in another world. A moment later, their vision became clear again. In the air, a transparent bag was still floating. The cabbage and seasonings inside seemed to be boiling. Bufang's eyes brightened. Hades' era slap was really powerful. His mind flickered, and his mental energy expanded, covering the transparent bag. Bufang's mouth twitched. What a pity! Although Hades' era slap was really powerful, it was still not enough. The cabbage and seasonings in the bag hadn't fused completely. Hades' era was a little embarrassed, looking at the undamaged bag. He forced a smile. Haha, this bag is really sturdy. Not bad. I like it. Bufang, you should ask Lord Dog to paw it. That way it would definitely break. You, who had been silent, suddenly said coldly. Bufang was bewildered, then his eyes brightened. That's right. Lord Go's exquisite dog paw was so terrifying. It could smash the tribulation cloud with one paw. Slapping a cabbage would be like playing a game. Hence, Bufang's eyes turned, falling on Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree. Lord Go was bewildered, and the fur on his body seemed to explode. Don't mess around. Do you think the exquisite dog paw is a joke? Lord Go won't use it easily. Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice arose. Looking at Lord Go's solemn face, Bufang nodded seriously. Then, he raised his hand. One paw for a bowl of sweet and sour ribs. How about that? Does Lord Go look like a dog that will be easily tempted? One paw for a bowl of sweet and sour dragon ribs. How about it? Why didn't you say so earlier? Deal. Chapter 9:14. Hearing Lord Go's words, the surrounding people were all speechless. What happened to his moral integrity? Lord Go, where's the moral integrity that you've kept for so many years? A bowl of sweet and sour dragon ribs is enough to throw away your moral integrity? Bufang, on the other hand, was not surprised at all. Bufang was well aware of Lord Go's obsession with sweet and sour dragon ribs. If one bowl wasn't enough, then 2. Bufang was surprised that Lord Go agreed so quickly. Of course, Lord Go didn't know that Bufang had looked down on him. Otherwise, if Lord Go knew that his paw could be exchanged for another bowl of sweet and sour dragon ribs, he would probably cry. However, at this moment, Lord Go didn't know anything. His heart didn't waver, and he even wanted to laugh. Bufang held the bag of cabbages in his hand. The cabbages inside had begun to change color. The abyssal chili sauce mixed with other sauces had formed a juicy aroma that began to seep into the cabbages. However, according to Bufang's perception, the pressure on the bag wasn't enough. He needed another paw. With the addition of Lord Go's paw, the dish would be complete. Lord Go strode out of the restaurant with elegant cat-like steps, walking to the front of the crowd. Bufang, boy, do you really want Lord Go to use his exquisite dog paw? With a single swipe of his claws, this thing might really break. Lord Go looked at Bufang, his magnetic and gentle voice resounding. Lord Go was full of confidence in his paw. There was nothing that he couldn't solve with one paw. It was just a broken bag. That idiot Hades couldn't break it, but it didn't mean that Lord Go couldn't. Don't break it. Just control it. Bufang looked at Lord Dog's small, exquisite, and unassuming paw, and he felt a little guilty in his heart. The Lord Go's claws were pretty awesome. Therefore, Bufang did not dare to guarantee anything. Naturally, Lord Go rolled his eyes. Bufang didn't say anything. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he casually threw the bag of cabbages in his hand away. The bag floated in the air, and the soup inside seemed to be boiling. Looking at the bag, Lord Go narrowed his eyes. In the next instant, it stretched out its exquisite dog paw towards the cabbage sack in the air. Everyone felt their hearts tremble. Then, a rumble resounded in their ears. A deafening boom rang out. The Lord Go's doggy paw seemed to shatter the void as it ruthlessly smashed the bag floating in the air. That palm was extremely terrifying. The old man looked at that palm, and his entire body shivered. The tuft of white hair on his head fluttered in the wind. Hades' era curled his lips. He had to admit that compared to this mangy dog's paw, his fist was indeed weak. However, that wasn't important. He was the lord of the netherworld, and he wasn't good at fighting and killing. Boom! The sound of explosions resounded unceasingly. The Lord Go's pole ruthlessly smashed on the bag, causing it to let out a violent roar in the air. Then, under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the bag shot out, speeding away. In the blink of an eye, it became a black dot. Bufang's face stiffened. Expressionlessly, he looked at the bag that was sent flying by the paw, and the corners of his mouth twitched. The Lord Go retracted his exquisite doggy paw, sticking out his tongue and licking his lip. With a trace of loneliness in his eyes, he looked at the crowd with a trace of invincibility. Then, he shook his doggy butt, wagged his tail, and strode like a cat back into the restaurant. Lying under the path understanding tree, he looked at the scene with a lonely face. Bufang was a little speechless. He had been busy for half a day, and this black dog had actually sent the bag flying with a single paw. If someone else picked it up, wouldn't this dish, which he had worked so hard on for half a day, fly away? Bufang took a deep breath. The vermilion robe on his body fluttered even though there was no wind. His figure instantly soared into the sky, turning into a stream of light as he dashed toward the direction where the bag had been sent flying. Not long after, Bufang flew back. Using his extreme speed, he quickly brought back the bag that had been sent flying. Gurgle! Gurgle! In the bag, the boiling sensation became more intense, and the soup seemed to be about to burst the bag. The soup and the cabbage began to mix. Bufang, young man, can this really be a dish? Can this thing be eaten? Hades' era looked at the bag, his face puzzled. Of course it can be eaten. Moreover, it's a delicacy. Bufang looked at Hades, answering the latter's question seriously. Hades pouted his lips, showing that he didn't believe it. Although the cabbage was in the bag, it had to bear such a great force. It should have been smashed. How could it be eaten? The taste of the cabbage must be terrible. The old man rubbed the tuft of white hair on his head. His thoughts were the same as Hades' era's. Chu Chongqing was wearing a long robe, which he had prepared at all times. After all, after each transformation, his clothes would burst. Chu Chongqing didn't understand Bufang's behavior. He used to be the great elder of the Valley of Gluttony, and he had seen thousands of cooking methods. However, he had never seen such a strange cooking method. Putting the ingredients in the bag and using a great force to strike it, such a dish. Could it be eaten? Not only them, but all the people around them also felt that this was a joke. Even if it could be eaten, it would be super disgusting. Someone thought. The people around whispered, looking at Bufang with strange eyes. Innovation always came with doubts, and Bufang was a person who didn't care about doubts. He cooked his dishes, and no matter how others doubted him, as long as it was done, people would eat it. Bufang was that confident. Bufang grabbed the bag in his hand. The ingredients inside were rolling, and they could occasionally see some cabbage. Under the gazes of the people around, Bufang gently tossed the bag up. Everyone was bewildered. Again? Do you want to smash it again? What is Owner Bu doing? Is he doing a circus? After smashing it so many times, I'm afraid the ingredients inside are rotten. The surrounding people discussed animatedly, and all of them revealed doubts. Hades' era and the others' gazes followed the bag that Bufang tossed up. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, Bufang gently patted the bag. Time and air seemed to freeze at this moment. In the eyes of the people, it seemed like Bufang was gently stroking the bag, which was different from the others' fierce attacks. Owner Bu's gentleness made many people uncomfortable. A moment later, that transparent bag suddenly bloomed with a dazzling golden light. The light was dazzling and resplendent, and it caused everyone to exclaim in surprise. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, made a sound of surprise. He raised his dog head, looking over in surprise. The eyes of Hades' era and the others shrank. The golden light gradually became gentle, like a layer of mist winding around the bag. The ingredients in the bag stabilized, no longer boiling. Gently, the bag with the cabbage fell into Bufang's hand. The orange-yellow juice was calm and peaceful, and the cabbage inside had become a little rosy. It didn't look as fresh as before, but it had a unique charm. Owner Bu, it's done? Chu Chongqing looked at Bufang, who had a satisfied face, and he couldn't help but ask. Bufang looked at Chu Chongqing, nodding. Then, he tore open the opening of the bag. A unique pungent smell immediately drifted out from the bag. The pungent smell contained a hint of vegetable sourness. Just a whiff of it would cause one to involuntarily salivate. Gulp. Many people smelled that smell, and their mouths began to drool. Their eyes were filled with surprise. It didn't have the thick aroma of Owner Bu's other dishes, but the sour taste of this vegetable was also unique. It actually had a special attractive feeling, and people couldn't help but want to taste it. Bufang didn't care much about the curiosity of the people around him. He was also very curious. It was the first time he used this cooking method, so he didn't know how it would taste. Spicy kimchi. It should be good, right? Bufang muttered in his heart. At this moment, the system didn't give him any judgment. Shaking the bag in his hand, Bufang stretched out his thumb and index finger, reaching into the bag and taking out a yellow-green kimchi. The juice dripped down the kimchi, and the sweet and sour smell became even thicker. It made people salivate, and they couldn't help but gulp. This thing can be eaten? Hades' era opened his eyes wide, smacking his lips as he asked. Of course it can be eaten. The taste should be pretty good. Bufang answered seriously. The people around him took a deep breath, and the air was filled with the sweet and sour smell. Under the gazes of the people around him, Bufang raised his head and stuffed that piece of kimchi into his mouth. Crunch, crunch, it wasn't as rotten as he imagined. Instead, it was a little crispy. Because the surface was stained with the juice, it became a little soft and mushy. However, the nature of the kimchi was very crispy. After chewing for a while, the sour and spicy taste instantly burst out in his mouth. Bufang's eyes instantly widened, and his mouth couldn't stop chewing. The kimchi, which was emitting a faint radiance, entered his mouth. The sweet, sour, and spicy taste burst out at the same time, causing the pores on his body to shrink, and his hair to stand on end. It's unexpectedly good. Delicious. Bufang chewed on this piece of kimchi, and his mouth was filled with the sour and spicy taste. After eating it, Bufang felt as though there were fine beads of sweat on the tip of his nose. Bufang, boy. How is it? Is it really delicious? Hades' era couldn't help but ask as he stared at Bufang with saliva dripping from his mouth. As Bufang chewed, he looked at Hades' era and didn't say anything. Instead, he continued to chew. At the same time, he closed his eyes and felt the food glide through his mouth, down his throat, and into his stomach. It seems to be really delicious. The old man pulled on a tuft of his white hair and sniffed the fragrance in the air. His heart couldn't help but be moved, and he was extremely shocked. After waiting for a while, the system still didn't give an evaluation. Bufang was a little surprised. Could it be that the system was also shocked by his unique cooking method? Without an evaluation, Bufang didn't mind. Looking at Hades' Era's expectant face, Bufang took out another piece of kimchi from the bag. He passed the kimchi to Hades' Era and said, "Try it." Hades' Era was stunned, and in the next moment, tears welled up in his eyes. He didn't expect that he, Hades' Era, would receive such treatment one day. Feeling touched, he received the kimchi from Bufang, and Hades' Era impatiently stuffed the whole piece of kimchi into his mouth. However, as soon as the kimchi entered his mouth, Hades' Era's entire body froze on the spot. Looking at Hades' Era's expression, Bufang suddenly twitched his slightly red and swollen lips. A piece of kimchi made Bufang feel as though his lips were on fire. After all, a big spoon of abyssal chili sauce was added. Chapter 9:15. The most frightening thing was that the air suddenly became quiet. Everybody was looking at Hades' Era, who had swallowed the entire sour spicy kimchi that Bufang had given him. Then, his entire body froze on the spot, maintaining the posture of swallowing the kimchi. Everybody looked at Hades' Era's face, which had gradually turned into the color of a pig's liver. They couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. So it's like that. This so-called kimchi is so disgusting? Look at Master Era's face. It's like a monkey's butt. So scary. Luckily, we didn't eat it. The surrounding people were pointing at Hades' Era. The spiciness of a big spoon of abyssal chili sauce was enough to make ordinary people doubt their lives. Even Bufang and Hades' Era were irritated by the spiciness. Their lips were red and swollen. Of course, if Bufang and Hades' Era urged the true energy in their bodies, the spiciness wouldn't hurt them at all. However, if they did that, it wouldn't be fun at all. They had to urge their true energy to eat. It was really boring. The food in their mouths would taste like they were chewing wax. Under people's gazes, Hades' Era closed his eyes. A crystal tear rolled down from the corner of his eye. Hades' Era's lips became red and swollen at a speed naked eyes could observe. Bufang had some understanding of Hades' Era. This fellow didn't really know how to eat spicy food. Although he liked to eat spicy strips and spicy blood lobster, his ability to eat spicy food was really weak. It could be seen from the speed at which he ate the spicy blood lobster. Wow. It's so scary. It's so disgusting that he's crying? Oh my God. We're lucky that we're not the ones eating it. I told you. How could a dish made with a fist taste good? When the surrounding people saw Hades' Era cry, they all took in a breath of cold air. Chu Chongsheng and the others felt that something was different. They thought that even if Ownerbu's dishes were bad, they wouldn't be so bad that they would cry. Ignoring everyone's emotions, Bufang looked at Hades' Era with his swollen lips. The next moment, Hades opened his eyes and began to chew violently and quickly. The sound of his teeth colliding with the kimchi rang out incessantly. Crunch, crunch. Hades' Era was both in pain and happiness. The sour and spicy taste of the kimchi made Hades' Era's mouth unable to stop. The texture and spiciness it contained caused all the pores on his body to shrink, and his cheeks to slightly sour. Although it was spicy, it was so spicy that it made people excited. It was so delicious that it made people cry. The kimchi seemed to have been smashed by many people's fists, so it could actually feel a huge impact. It also contained waves of energy. It seemed that when they were bombarding it, the energy that seeped out had mixed with the cabbage, making the taste of the kimchi even more enchanting. As Hades' Era ate, he felt as though his mouth was about to explode. It was like a volcano that had been suppressed for a long time was about to erupt. After chewing for a long time, the sour and spicy juice of the kimchi flowed in his mouth, and the sour and spicy taste permeated his mouth. Then, he swallowed the kimchi. The burning sensation seemed to flow from his throat to his stomach. That kind of burning sensation made Hades' Era involuntarily reach out his hand. His eyes were blurry as he caressed his cheeks and swollen lip. Oh, delicious! Hades' Era's nostrils flared, and his eyes were blurry. It's delicious, right? After all, it's cooked with a unique method. If it's combined with some ingredients and good wine, it will be even more delicious. Bufang shook the kimchi in his hand, smiling as he spoke. It's just a little spicy, Hades' Era said as he smacked his swollen lips. After saying that, Hades' Era came over, his face full of smiles. However, if this kimchi lacks this spiciness, it won't have any taste. So, Bufang young man, why don't you give I another piece? I can still taste more. When the surrounding people heard this, they couldn't help but be speechless. In their hearts, they scolded. This guy was so shameless. The elder's heart was already itching. He looked at Bufang and said, "Little chef, give this old man a piece too." "Bufang, I want one too." Yu's pitch-black eyes stared at Bufang. She stuck out her slippery tongue and licked her red lip. Her beautiful face was filled with seriousness. Hua's triflower snake eyes turned, staring at Bufang. Without a doubt, what Hua meant was that he wanted one too. In the face of the expectant gazes of the crowd, Bufang earnestly sealed the bag. "No more, no more. There are still a few pieces of kimchi left. I still have some use for them," Bufang said solemnly. What use did Bufang have for them? Other than being eaten, what use did the kimchi have? The surrounding people all revealed a trace of puzzlement. However, they couldn't figure it out, so they could only reveal a regretful expression. It was a pity that they couldn't enjoy the taste of the kimchi. The elder was so angry. He pulled the tuft of white hair on his head, gritting his teeth. As the first valley master of the Valley of Gluttony, he could eat whatever he wanted to eat. However, today, he had suffered many losses at the hands of this little chef. Whatever he wanted to eat, he couldn't. That kind of anger made the elder feel that the tuft of white hair on his head was almost bald. Yu glanced at Bufang, her eyes extremely deep. Knowing that there was no more to eat, Hua sighed regretfully. He turned around, intending to return to the restaurant. "Humph. Bufang young man, since you don't want to let us eat, we'll make it ourselves." Suddenly, Hades' Era placed his hands on his waist, looking at Bufang. His sausage-like mouth cracked open, revealing a complacent smile. Bufang was stunned, and the surrounding people were also stunned. "What do you mean?" Bufang furrowed his brows, asking suspiciously. "I can make my own kimchi. Find a sturdy bag, then put in the cabbage, put in the seasoning, and use all your strength to pat it, right? Such a simple thing. With I's wisdom, how could I not be able to make it?" Hades' Era laughed proudly, as if he was praising his own wisdom. The surrounding people's eyes lit up. Although they felt that something was wrong, it was very reasonable. That's right. Bufang had made this dish in front of them. There wasn't any complicated process, so they should be able to make it too. The elder pinched the tuft of white hair on his head, his eyes bright. He felt that his tuft of white hair was saved. Bufang was speechless. What Hades' Era said was very reasonable, and he actually had no words to refute it. However, he still felt that there was something strange about it. With a swoosh, everyone who had surrounded the restaurant dispersed, returning to their own homes to prepare to make kimchi. Hades' Era excitedly greeted Bufang, then turned around and left, going to the various big restaurants in the Valley of Gluttony to ask for ingredients and sauce. Hades' Era originally planned to ask for it from Bufang, but he changed his mind. He had already stolen Bufang's secret recipe and technique to make kimchi, so asking for ingredients from others was too cruel. He, Hades' Era, was a merciful person. Hence, Hades' Era went to visit other restaurants. Of course, Hades was also clear that with Bufang's stingy character, wanting to get ingredients from Bufang was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. After everyone left, although Bufang felt a little strange in his heart, he didn't care too much. After shrugging his shoulders, he turned around and went back into the restaurant. You naturally wouldn't mix with them. When it came to culinary skills, she only trusted Bufang. She only knew how to eat. Asking her to cook? No way. As for Hua, this girl narrowed her eyes. Her triflower snake eyes turned, and her figure turned into a ray of light, disappearing into the distance. Returning to the kitchen, Bu Fong took out the kimchi from the bag and placed it into a porcelain bowl. The entire kitchen was instantly filled with the smell of kimchi. Kimchi was the best appetizer for a meal, as it was both appetizing and delicious. Moreover, kimchi paired with good wine was also a kind of enjoyment. Eating a mouthful of kimchi and drinking a mouthful of wine, the sour and spicy taste, mixed with the mellow fragrance of the wine, was absolutely intoxicating. If the kimchi was paired with many other ingredients and stir-fried together, it would also enhance the taste of the dish, creating an extremely delicious dish. The Divine Spirit Realm test has ended. Dish: sour and spicy kimchi. After the system's evaluation, it is rated as high grade. Congratulations to the host for passing the Divine Spirit Realm test. Just as Bufang took out his kitchen knife, preparing to cook a dish with kimchi, the system's solemn and serious voice rang out in his head. Regarding this, Bufang wasn't too surprised. The kitchen knife in his hand only paused for a moment, and he let out a light breath. Then, everything went back to normal. This kimchi still had many shortcomings, and Bufang felt that he could still improve it. In the Valley of Gluttony, Hades' Era's figure rapidly shot out, and soon, he saw the restaurant. As the Noodle King restaurant was bustling with business, Hades' Era strode into the restaurant. When Ouyang Chinfeng saw Hades' Era, he personally came out to welcome him with a face full of respect. In the Valley of Gluttony, there was no one who didn't know Hades' Era's identity. He was a big shot. No one dared to offend this kind of big shot. No matter which restaurant he went to, he would be treated as a distinguished guest. Hades' Era's sausage lips were red and swollen. He was very satisfied with Ouyang Chinfeng's performance. Hades' Era, was just that noble. I didn't come to your restaurant to make things difficult for you. I just want to borrow some ingredients, Hades' Era said with his red and swollen lips. Ouyang Chinfeng respectfully bowed, his face filled with a gentle smile. However, when Hades' Era said he wanted to borrow ingredients, he was slightly stunned. Borrow ingredients? What the hell? Could it be that this lord also wanted to learn how to cook? It couldn't be. Besides eating, this lord also knew how to cook? However, Ouyang Chinfeng was, after all, the Noodle King. His heart did not waver, and he continued to smile warmly. After asking about the ingredients that Hades' Era needed, he ordered his men to prepare them. 1 cabbage, the juicy kind, and chili sauce. I don't have Bufang's secret chili sauce, so I'll use your secret chili sauce. And a little wine, and Hades' Era counted with his fingers, listing the ingredients. Ouyang Chinfeng listened to the ingredients, and his gentle face revealed a confused expression. He had no idea what these ingredients were for. Soon, the ingredients were brought over. Lord Era, this jar of chili sauce is our Noodle King restaurant's secret chili sauce. It's very spicy, and I hope that you will use it wisely. Ouyang Chinfeng solemnly handed the chili sauce to Hades' Era. Regarding this, Hades' Era patted his chest, assuring that he would not put too much chili sauce in it. Carrying a big pile of ingredients, Hades' Era looked at the curious Noodle King Ouyang Chinfeng. Suddenly, his eyes rolled and a mysterious smile appeared on his face. Young man, do you want to see Ai's exquisite cooking? This is what I secretly learned from Bufang. Hades' face did not blush, and his heart did not beat fast. He said innocently, "Is this really okay?" Noodle King Ouyang Chinfeng's eyes brightened. It turned out that he had secretly learned it from Owner Bu. That would be interesting, and he was looking forward to it. Seeing the Noodle King's support, Hades' Era laughed, and he started to cook in the restaurant. The customers in the Noodle King restaurant all gathered around curiously. No one knew where Hades' Era found a bag. Although this bag was not as transparent as Bufang's bag, it was very sturdy. It was made from the skin of a spirit beast. After breaking the cabbage and stuffing it into the bag, Hades' opened the jar. After hesitating for a while, he poured the whole jar of chili sauce into the bag. He poured half a bottle of wine, adding some seasonings, and some other ingredients that he thought should be added. In the end, Hades' endured the pain and took out a chili strip, cutting off half of it and stuffed it into the bag. The crowd looked at Hades' with a dumbfounded face. Was he cooking? Noodle King Ouyang Chinfeng watched, his face expressionless. He suddenly had a bad premonition. Indeed, after Hades' had prepared all the ingredients, he rubbed his hands, closed the bag, and scanned the crowd. Now it's time to witness a miracle. Hades' laughed, rubbing his hands together. Then, he raised his hand. Ouyang Chinfeng's eyes shrank when he saw that. His heart almost stopped, and the bad premonition became stronger. Chapter 9:16. In the center of the Gluttony Gods building, Xiaoya was a little bored as she sat on it, swinging her cute little feet. She wore a long robe, the hem of which hung on the ground. When she walked, it looked like she was sweeping the floor. This was the exclusive robe of the Valley of Gluttony's Valley Master. Because Xiaoya was really too small, she could only wear it like this. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed, and a petite figure suddenly appeared outside the Gluttony Gods building. Xiaoya turned her head to look and immediately cheered. She jogged all the way, but after 2 steps, because of the long robe, she stepped on the long hem of the robe, and her body fell to the ground with a thud. However, Xiaoya did not care at all. She got up from the ground, wiped her nose, and ran to the window, opening it. Flowery jumped into the room through the window and carefully hugged Xiaoya. Then, she started talking non-stop. Xiaoya seemed to understand Hua's mysterious language, nodding continuously. The more Hua talked, the more excited Xiaoya became. Really? Big Brother Bufang taught you how to cook? Xiaoya said with her big eyes. Hua's triflower snake eyes moved, and he nodded seriously. Then let's go. Let me see what Big Brother Bufang taught you. That old man also said he would teach me how to cook, but every day, he only made me practice my knife skills and cutting vegetables. It's so boring. Xiaoya got Hua's confirmation and was instantly happy. She pulled Hua's hand and walked to the kitchen of the Gluttony Gods building. The Gluttony Gods building was the biggest landmark of the Valley of Gluttony. After a disaster, the experts of the Valley of Gluttony strengthened and expanded the building. Today, the Gluttony Gods building was bigger and more majestic. However, in terms of prosperity, it had to be the long street of the Gluttony God city. The long street was very crowded, with people coming and going. There were disciples from various holy lands, and there were also disciples from some forces from other places. Today, the Valley of Gluttony could be said to be the center of the hidden dragon continent. This was something that no one had expected. After all, the experts of the ruined prison were actually afraid of the Valley of Gluttony. Xiaoya brought Hua to the kitchen of the Gluttony Gods building. The kitchen of the Glutton Gods building was huge, but it was empty and cold. There was no one else in the kitchen. Xiaoya and Hua, the 2 tiny children, were walking around. Their footsteps reverberated in the air, sounding a little chilly. Xiaoya brought Hua to the food storage. With a crash, the door to the food storage was pushed open by Hua's immense strength. Here, this is the ingredient warehouse of the Gluttony Gods building. Take whatever you want. Xiaoya really looked like a nouveau riche now, he said to her. There was an abundance of ingredients in the food storage. The meat was divided into bird-type spirit beast meat, walking beast meat, and fish meat. There were also many spirit herbs and vegetables. Xiaoya originally thought that Hua would choose high-grade ingredients from the food storage, but she did not expect that Hua, who entered the food storage, would walk towards the vegetable section without a word. In the end, he came back with a huge, juicy cabbage. Xiaoya was stunned. Could it be that Bufang taught Hua to eat cabbage? Is he trying to turn the meat Hua into a vegetarian Hua? Just this cabbage? It's so ordinary. Xiaoya said. However, out of her expectation, Hua gave Xiaoya a mysterious look and continued to fiddle around in the food storage. In just a short while, all the ingredients were prepared. Taking out a bag made of spirit beast skin, Hua poured the cabbage, ingredients, chili sauce, and other ingredients into the bag. It was like a big hodgepodge. Hua was already stupefied by what he saw. Tell me, all of this isn't real. Looking at the bulging spirit beast bag in Hua's hand, Xiaoya did not know what to say. Placing the bag on the ground, Hua signaled Xiaoya to take a step back. Xiaoya was instantly stunned. Holding her long robe, she retreated. Hua took a deep breath. Then, with a roar, Hua's figure suddenly changed. He turned into a giant seven-colored sky-devouring python that was a few meters long. The snake raised its tail and fiercely swung its tail at the spirit beast pouch below, whipping it towards the pouch. Xiaoya was so frightened that her whole body shivered. What is Little Flower doing? Next, it's time to witness a miracle. Hades' Era rubbed his hands, his face full of excitement. As someone who had tasted Bufang's sour and spicy kimchi, his heart's anticipation for the kimchi was stronger than anyone else's. Ouyang Chunfeng had a bad premonition in his heart. From the way Hades' Era poured the whole jar of chili sauce into the bag, he could tell something bad would definitely happen next. Indeed, Hades' Era took a deep breath. Under everyone's doubtful gaze, he actually raised his hand. Thick nether energy gathering on Hades' Era's palm, as if it had turned into a long snake that coiled around him. Hades' Era's action made everyone's heart tremble. Their faces instantly changed. What was this guy trying to do? Noodle King Ouyang Chenfeng's mouth twitched. Looking at this posture, was Lord Ha planning to slap him? Slap him? If he slapped him, the result would be unimaginable. No. Lord Ha, please have mercy. Noodle King Ouyang Chenfeng couldn't bear it anymore. He raised one hand, his nostrils flared as he shouted to stop him. However, at this moment, Hades' Era didn't care about what Ouyang Chenfeng said. His face was full of excitement. His swollen lips seemed to be shining. Don't talk. Look at me quietly. I want to create a miracle. What you need to do is to appreciate the miracle. Ouyang Chenfeng was dumbstruck. Appreciate the miracle. I'm afraid he was admiring a weirdo. The surrounding people all exclaimed in surprise. Lord Ha really planned to slap him. If he really slapped him, the bag would break. No one knew what would happen. Noodle King Ouyang Chenfeng's instinct told him that he had to stop him. However, facing Hades' Era, he didn't have the guts to stop him. He could only watch Nether King Ha slap him with an excited look on his face. Nether energy twirled around him. With a slap, the spirit beast bag bore Hades' Era's slap. Everybody's heart was in their throat. They watched as Hades' Era's palm got closer to the bag. Ouyang Chenfeng's face looked like he had nothing left to live for. Finally, amidst Hades' Era's wild laughter, he slapped. Delicious hot and sour kimchi. Come out. Puff, a muffled sound rang out. The sound in the air disappeared. Suddenly, it was quiet. There was only a muffled sound, and the sound of gushing water could be heard. As expected, Hades' Era's slap broke the bag. With a puff, it burst like a fart. It was filled with ingredients and sauces that gushed out. It gushed out in all directions in an orderly manner. It was like a miracle. Hades' Era was the first to be hit. He was drenched. The sauce splashed all over his face, and there was even a piece of dried cabbage leaf on his head. An awkward feeling flowed in Hades' Era's heart. The script wasn't supposed to be like this. Everybody was speechless as they looked at Hades' Era. Their faces were dull. Above their heads there was a piece of cabbage leaf. The air was filled with a thick, sour and spicy smell. It was the smell of vinegar from Ouyang Chenfeng's secret sauce. As for why he added vinegar, perhaps it was because Hades' Era wanted to experience the sour taste that made his teeth go soft. Ouyang Chenfeng looked around. Looking at the sauce and cabbage that splashed all over the restaurant because of the explosion, he felt as if an invisible arrow had stabbed his chest. He wanted to vomit blood. Ahaha, are you surprised? Are you surprised? Do you feel like you're witnessing a miracle? Hades Era awkwardly removed the piece of cabbage leaf from his face. Then, he opened his arms, talking to the crowd. Such a spectacular scene. It's a miracle, right? Ouyang Chinfeng felt as if another arrow had pierced into his chest. What a surprise, what a surprise, what a freaking, what a weirdo. If Ouyang Chinfeng could defeat Hades Era, he would definitely choose to fight Hades Era with his life. The entire noodle house was filled with the sour and spicy smell. A series of screams resounded, and the diners ran out crazily. Some people didn't know whether to cry or laugh, feeling helpless toward the unreliable Sirha. It was really a miracle to be splashed all over. Hades Era was so embarrassed. He had used very little strength, but why couldn't the bag bear it? It must be the bag's problem, not his strength. Alright, Ouyang young man, this is I's gift for you. I wish you a prosperous business. I will go first. Hades Era didn't have the face to stay there anymore. He said to Noodle King Ouyang Chinfeng, who was on the verge of going berserk. Then, his figure flashed, disappearing from his spot. Noodle King Ouyang Chinfeng's shoulders shivered for a while. Then, he forced a smile. He actually believed that Sir Ha could cook. When did he become so naive? He had to bear the sins he had done, even with tears in his eyes. In life, he had to learn to bear it. In the kitchen of the Gluttony Gods building, with a soft, muffled sound, Xiaoya was drenched. The sour and spicy taste splashed all over her body. The long robe of the Valley of Gluttony's Valley Master was covered in a large puddle of soup. Xiaoya was a little speechless. Was this the dish that Hua had promised her, the one that Big Brother Bufang had taught her? Hua must have learned bad things from Sir Ha. He actually learned to lie through his teeth, to think that she had trusted him so sincerely in the beginning. Now that she was drenched, it was really embarrassing. Hua's figure turned into his human form. He glanced at Xiaoya with his triflower snake eyes, then covered his face. Without saying a word, he turned and ran. Xiaoya looked helplessly at Hua running away. She smiled bitterly and started to clean up the kitchen. Hua returned to the Taotai restaurant. With a swoosh, she turned into a stream of light and ran to Lord Go's side. She grabbed the dog's tail and did not move. Lord Go was sleeping soundly. Suddenly, he felt his tail being grabbed. He opened his eyes and glanced at the little girl. You dare to grab Lord Go's tail? You little girl, do you want to go to heaven? Hua covered her face, stunned. In the next moment, Hua was hung up on the path understanding tree by Lord Go with an adorable face. The lower half of Hua's body was tied up by a thick hemp rope made of nether energy, hanging upside down on the path understanding tree. The confused and innocent Hua felt that her life was gloomy. She felt that cooking would never be her job. She only needed to be responsible for eating like Sister Nethery. At the same time, in the Valley of Gluttony, every restaurant was screaming. All kinds of muffled sounds that sounded like farting echoed. The sour and spicy taste spread, filling the entire Valley of Gluttony. Hades Era laughed dryly as he ran out of another restaurant. This time, there was no restaurant that could accommodate him. All of a sudden, Hades Era's eyes turned, his gaze falling on the Gluttony Gods building in the distance. Xiaoya, that little one seems to have a kitchen. This time, I can definitely create a miracle. However, when he found Xiaoya and said that he wanted to create a miracle for her, Xiaoya glared at him and chased him out of the Gluttony Gods building with a kitchen knife. Helplessly, Hades Era had to return to Bufang's Taotai restaurant. He did not understand why he could not do it. Wasn't it just cooking pickles? What was so difficult about that? Back in the restaurant, Hades Era was bewildered. Because in the restaurant, everyone was sitting around the table, looking at the kitchen with anticipation. and I Yen, Chu Chongqing, you, the mangy dog, and that shameless old man with a tuft of white hair on top of his head, all had a look of anticipation on their faces. Hades' era was bewildered. Then, from the kitchen, a wave of thick aroma of food wafted out. This aroma had a hint of pickles. Nether King Ha's whole body quivered, and he eagerly rushed into the restaurant. Leave some for I. Chapter 9:17. After a hearty meal, the dishes and cups were all over the place. Hades' era finally gave in. He felt that cooking wasn't suitable for him. What he was best suited to do was to drink like a mangy dog. Eat nonstop. Although that kimchi looked very easy to make, after so many failures, Nether King Ha also understood that there were definitely many problems that he didn't understand and couldn't solve. As for what those problems were, Hades' era was too lazy to think about it. He chose to give up. Inside the Taotai restaurant, everybody rubbed their bellies. Imitating Bufang, they curled up on their chairs, gently exhaling. They all looked lazy. The night was getting darker. 2 crescent moons hung high in the sky, radiating cold light. It seemed to cover the entire earth with a thin layer of gauze. In the restaurant, after tasting Bufang's food, the people reluctantly bid farewell to Bufang, then left the restaurant. Bufang stretched his waist, yawning. It was a tiring day, and his body was a little tired. And I Yen went upstairs. And I Yen went back upstairs, and Chu Chongqing also went back to his room to sleep. After Bufang closed the restaurant's door, he turned around and went to the kitchen. Gently exhaling, Bufang's mind flickered, and the energy on his body began to surge. The velvet rope that tied his hair naturally snapped, and his hair scattered everywhere. Above his head, the soul ladder emerged. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 9 steps of the soul ladder congregated, turning into a divine altar. Bufang lifted his head. He could feel the energy in his body unceasingly scattering, gathering toward that divine altar. In his spirit sea, his mental energy boiled. The gold divine dragon tool soul bared its fangs and brandished its claws, crossing the vast sky. His mental energy seemed to be burning, and energy quickly gathered on the divine altar. Shortly after, a quietly burning divine flame emerged. It was the mental flame, the divine flame with terrifying energy. The divine flame burning on the divine altar meant that Bufang had successfully entered the divine spirit realm. Now, Bufang's combat power had been greatly improved. Bufang's spirit sea expanded once again, and his mental power became even stronger and more terrifying. After the breakthrough, Bufang opened his eyes. There seemed to be a divine light blossoming in his eyes, like a sharp long sword that wanted to tear the sky apart. I've finally broken through. Bufang stretched out his hand, looked at his palm, and couldn't help but sigh. After completing the Divine Spirit Realm's assessment, the current him had also broken through to the Divine Spirit Realm, becoming one of the top people in this part of the Hidden Dragon continent. After stepping into the Divine Spirit Realm, Bufang's heart finally calmed down a lot. Because only by stepping into the Divine Spirit Realm did he have the qualifications to come into contact with the Heaven Chief Realm. Before this, although Bufang's combat strength was very strong and his mental strength was also very terrifying, he was still only at the Divine Soul Realm. His cultivation was insufficient, so Bufang was destined to be somewhat limited. Stepping into the Divine Spirit Realm was tantamount to breaking through the shackles. It made Bufang's heart calm down a lot. Bufang's breakthrough was simple, and it didn't cause the slightest ripple. His breakthrough wasn't as powerful as Yan's, and he didn't light up 5 divine flames at once. After lighting up 1 divine flame, Bufang's aura began to converge, gradually dispersing. With a flicker of his mind, Bufang's figure entered the heaven and earth farmland. Time flew unceasingly. It had been a long time since the Hidden Dragon continent had fallen. The Hidden Dragon royal court was now completely in ruins. Broken fences and broken walls filled the once prosperous and powerful royal court. In this place, one couldn't see the creatures of the hidden dragon continent. There was only nether energy twirling around, and only terrifying demonic shadows could be seen. Several hundred miles away from the royal court's holy land, there was a towering mountain. This mountain was really tall. Black clouds floated halfway up the mountain, and the trees on it were all black. It seemed that because of the nether energy they had become pitch black. On the mountain, experts from the ruined prison would appear from time to time. A majestic white bone palace sat on the peak of the mountain. The sky above the mountain was covered with layers of black clouds, bringing with it a huge pressure that made people's breathing become hurried. Inside the palace, 8 figures were arrogantly sitting on the stone chairs. These 8 figures weren't strangers. They were the 8 great demon kings of the ruined prison. The leader was the demon king of the demon Eye clan. At this moment, his entire body was emitting a terrifying aura, and a pitch-black energy was moving in his demon eyes. His eyes scanned the entire place. Eventually, he slowly opened his mouth. Our ruined prison has invaded the hidden dragon continent for almost 2 years. But what have we done? Hiding on one side of this continent, and the other side still doesn't belong to us. This isn't the purpose of our invasion. The demon king of the demon Eye clan said. That's right. Back then, we invaded to find the strongest demon king. Under the leadership of the strongest demon king, we swept across the entire hidden dragon continent. However, the strongest demon king only brought us to hide in a corner. 10,000 years have passed, and the strongest demon king isn't the one that shook the entire ruined prison. He isn't the strongest demon king that was so domineering that he wanted to invade Earth prison. The voice of the demon Eye clan's demon king was very magical. At times it was high and at times it was suppressed. It stirred up the emotions to the fullest. Under his control, the emotions of the experts of the ruined prison boiled up. Just a mere valley of gluttony blocking our way. It's really too disgusting. What we need to do is to crush this disgusting thing. The demon Eye clan's demon king said domineeringly. He had waited for this chance for too long. The strongest demon king was in seclusion, and today, his chance had come. In more than a year, under the orders of the strongest demon king, the experts of the ruined prison hadn't attacked the other regions of the Valley of Gluttony. To the demon kings that had rushed over from the ruined prison, this was simply too uncomfortable. What they needed was to conquer, not to submit. They didn't know what the strongest demon king was afraid of. Back then, those experts who had faced the Valley of Gluttony together with the strongest demon king didn't say anything. Hence, many of the demon kings were a little irritable. Today, under the leadership of the demon Eye clan's demon king, this irritation was completely ignited. Destroy the Valley of Gluttony. Conquer the entire hidden dragon continent. The experts of the ruined prison waved their weapons, roaring angrily. Their roars instantly reverberated around the entire mountain. Only the experts who had faced the Valley of Gluttony together with the strongest demon king shook their heads helplessly. These experts didn't know anything about the enemy's experts. Outside the Valley of Gluttony, the current Valley of Gluttony was the gathering place of all the Holy Lands. The defensive power inside was extremely strong. The Gluttony God City, which originally didn't have city walls, still didn't have city walls. However, around the Valley of Gluttony, there were many simple cities rising from the ground. These cities were built by the experts of the Holy Lands. The city walls were tall, blocking the strong enemies. After all, with so many experts from the Holy Lands pouring in, it caused the population of the Valley of Gluttony to increase in an instant. Once the population increased, there wasn't enough space. Hence, a few more cities were built. In the sky, black clouds rolled and surged over. A tall and sturdy expert stepped on the air, his back wrapped in majestic black clouds. When a guard saw this scene, his eyes instantly shrank, and the alarm rang out. In the Valley of Gluttony, the Saint's sovereign expert turned into a stream of light, shooting up into the sky. He landed on the city wall, his gaze fixed on the expert in the distance. That's the Demon Eye Clan's Demon King? The Saint's sovereign experts sucked in a breath of cold air. Didn't the strongest Demon King say that the experts of the ruined prison weren't allowed to attack the Valley of Gluttony and invade the south of the Valley of Gluttony? Now that the Demon Eye Clan's Demon King had appeared here, what did it mean? Not only the Demon Eye Clan's Demon King, but there were also black clouds shrouding over from other directions of the Valley of Gluttony. One after another, Demon King experts stepped on the air. The 8 Demon King experts quickly landed outside the Valley of Gluttony. The nether energy that filled the sky lingered, causing all the experts of the Holy Lands to feel nervous. The great path of heaven collapsed. Could the Demon King experts finally enter the hidden dragon continent as they pleased? The Saint's sovereign experts looked at the figures that made them feel fear, and they couldn't help but feel bitter in their hearts. The Demon King's power was really much stronger than theirs. One strongest Demon King was enough to make them despair. Now that so many Demon Kings had appeared, they didn't even have the slightest chance. The 8 great Demon Kings landed in front of the Valley of Gluttony. Out of everyone's expectations, they didn't directly attack. Instead, they faintly smiled as they looked at the Saint Sovereigns. Several thousand miles behind the 8 great Demon Kings was the great army of the ruined prison. This great army gathered, and the nether energy soared to the sky, turning into monstrous black clouds that shrouded the sky. They had received the Demon King's order, so they weren't in a hurry to attack. Naturally, the strongest Demon King had a reason to be afraid. The 8 great Demon Kings wanted to enter the Valley of Gluttony to see what exactly made the strongest Demon King so afraid. Facing the 8 great Demon Kings' request to enter the Valley of Gluttony, the Saint Sovereigns naturally didn't agree. Currently, the Valley of Gluttony was the gathering place and base of the Holy Lands. If the 8 great Demon Kings wantonly slaughtered within, it would be a huge loss to the entire Holy Lands. However, who could stop the 8 great Demon Kings? Turning into 8 streams of light, the Holy Land's defense was smashed into pieces in an instant. The 8 great Demon Kings had disdainful laughter as they stepped into the Valley of Gluttony. The waves of the Sunset Lake rolled, and a Demon King walked on the wave. Standing in the middle of the lake, he let out a loud laugh. Water dragons twirled around his body. This was an expert of the Demon Frog race, and he had a strong ability to control water. Many Holy Lands experts, who tried to stop him, were scattered by the water dragons. The Saint Sovereigns suppressed their anger. They didn't think that the 8 great Demon Kings would actually cause trouble at the same time. Previously, with the strongest Demon King suppressing them, these fellows didn't dare to be presumptuous. Now that the strongest Demon King was in seclusion, these fellows couldn't help but want to make a move? Many Saint Sovereigns looked at each other, seeing the determination in each other's eyes. Facing the Demon Kings, they weren't completely defenseless. They still had the trump card that Owner Boo had provided. However, unless it was absolutely necessary, they couldn't use it. After all, there was only one trump card. Weak, too weak. With this kind of power, I really don't know what the strongest Demon King is afraid of. Towards these ants, wouldn't it be better to just kill them directly? Why should we let them struggle at death's door? The Demon Eagle's Demon King shook his hooked nose, revealing a cold smile. His laughter seemed to have a magical power, causing the Holy Land's disciples' eardrums to swell in pain. The 8 great Demon Kings each had their own power. Once they entered the Valley of Gluttony, it was as if they wanted to flip the sky and earth. Gluttony God City, on the Long Street today there were very few people on the Long Street. Everyone was hiding in the Gluttony Gods building square. The Demon Kings had invaded, and a great battle was about to break out. The weak ones were all hiding. There was no need to send themselves to death. The Demon Eyes Demon King clasped his hands, slowly walking on the Long Street. The fragrance that filled the air caused his 3 eyes to involuntarily narrow. Slowly walking, the Demon Eyes Demon King's 3rd eye suddenly opened, and a red light circulated within it. Buzz, the entire Valley of Gluttony seemed to appear in the Demon Eyes Demon King's mind. Tautai restaurant with a creaking sound, the restaurant's door was instantly opened. A figure somewhat lazily pushed open the door, yawning as he stood at the entrance, twisting his waist. Bufang's eyes were hazy as he breathed in the fresh air. He stretched his waist and moved his body. A beautiful day had begun, and it would be another busy day. Suddenly Bufang froze. He lightly exclaimed, because he realized that in front of him, the originally long queue had actually disappeared. In front of the restaurant it was completely empty. A gust of wind blew past, sweeping up some dust and sand. It made Bufang, who was just about to start busying himself, feel a little awkward. The air suddenly exploded. The violent explosion gave the awkward Bufang a fright. Black energy rolled, and very quickly, in front of the restaurant's entrance, a thin figure slowly walked out from the black light. His 3 eyes were all emitting a bright light. The Demon Eyes Demon King clasped his hands, looking at Bufang, who was standing in the distance with hazy eyes. The corner of his mouth cracked, revealing a few sharp teeth. Just because of this little restaurant of yours, the strongest Demon King actually gave up on conquering the entire Hidden Dragon continent. Chapter 9:18. Just because of this restaurant of yours, the strongest Demon King gave up on conquering the entire Hidden Dragon continent? The Demon Eyes Demon King looked at Bufang, who was standing at the entrance of the restaurant. The corners of his mouth opened, revealing a cold smile. That smile was filled with a chill that made one's heart tremble. Regarding this restaurant, the Demon Eyes Demon King was actually not unfamiliar. Back then, when a wisp of his consciousness was attached to Amethyst Elder's body, he had seen this restaurant. However, as that wisp of his consciousness was completely torn apart by the strongest Demon King, the information regarding this restaurant completely disappeared. Today, the Demon Eyes Demon King saw this restaurant once again. From the outside, there was nothing special about it. The Demon Eyes Demon King did not know why the strongest Demon King would choose to retreat. Bufang looked at the Demon Eyes Demon King indifferently. 3-eyed. So familiar. Back then, there was also an expert from the Demon Eye clan who attacked the Valley of Gluttony. However, that time, the 4-eyed one seemed to have died tragically. Of course, back then, the aura of that 4-eyed one was much weaker than this fellow in front of him. Early in the morning, the people in the queue were all gone, and a 3-eyed one actually came. It seemed like it was this 3-eyed one with a powerful aura that scared away his customers. Hence, when Bufang looked at this 3-eyed one, his gaze was not too friendly. The other party came aggressively, using a questioning tone the moment he opened his mouth. Bufang rubbed his head, expressionlessly glancing at the other party. He was too lazy to answer the other party's question. Turning around, he planned to walk into the restaurant. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, a violent explosion rang out. Bufang slightly froze, turning his head to look around. There was a terrifying aura rushing into the sky. The strength of each aura was not weaker than the Demon Eyes Demon King in front of him. Now you understand. The strongest Demon King letting you guys go doesn't mean that we, the other Demon Kings, will let you guys go too. The Demon Eyes Demon King indifferently said. The vertical eye on his forehead turned, suddenly widening. With a spin, a resplendent light blossomed within. In various places within the Valley of Gluttony, a great battle erupted. On the Sunset Lake, the Demon Frog's Demon King and the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign were fighting. The lake water constantly exploded, and the waves rushed into the sky. The Rising Sun Saint Master walked the path of extreme yang. Every punch was like a scorching sun, burning and resplendent. However, the strength of the Demon Frog's Demon King was simply too strong. With just a thought, he would attract the water dragon to attack, forcing the Rising Sun Saint Master to retreat. Croak! Too weak. Demon Frog Demon King laughed. The black shadow in the sky covered the sun. The demon eagle's demon king spread its wings, and a dark whirlwind swept across, causing the sand and stones on the ground to fly, and the air to shatter. The Alcade's sacred lord's body swayed, as she sent out many pieces of cloth. But under the sharp eagle claws, they were all torn to shreds. The battles in various places had all entered a crisis. The demon master experts completely suppressed the saint masters. Demon Eyes Demon King looked at Bufang with a ruminating gaze. This restaurant was the pillar of the Valley of Gluttony. He didn't believe that it could remain indifferent in such a dangerous situation. However, he was wrong. Bufang was really indifferent. Although he was a little surprised by the battles around him, Bufang didn't care too much. Giving the Demon Eyes Demon King a look, he turned around and entered the restaurant. The Demon Eyes Demon King felt that he was once again ignored. His face slightly stiffened, and then his anger soared to the heavens. Thinking back to Bufang's expressionless face, the Demon Eyes Demon King felt as though he was being mercilessly mocked. He took a deep breath. In front of the demon eye, a blood-black energy ball gathered. He planned to destroy this restaurant with one move, completely shattering the pillar of the Valley of Gluttony and shattering the thoughts of the ants in the hidden dragon continent. Suddenly, his movements paused, because he realized that Bufang, who had originally entered the room, had walked out again. As expected, "You want to come and beg for mercy?" The Demon Eyes Demon King narrowed his eyes, smiling coldly. "Unfortunately, it's too late, beg for mercy." Bufang indifferently looked at the Demon Eyes Demon King, not really understanding what the other party was talking about. In the sky, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared. Very quickly, there was a whistling sound that descended. The Demon Eyes Demon King froze. His figure appeared in the distance as though he had teleported, and the place where he was originally standing was smashed by a huge object, causing the ground to tremble. This is a papillion? When the Demon Eyes Demon King saw this huge object, his eyes shrank. Naturally, he was very familiar with the papillion. After all, letting the papillion carry the mandala tree's seed into the hidden dragon continent was a method that he had thought of. It was just that he did not understand why a papillion would descend from the sky. "Bufang, young man, I have gone through untold hardships to find another papillion. Can I exchange it for a few chili strips?" Chili strips reserves have all been used up. On the papillion's body, a figure drilled out, leaping down and landing on the ground. The Demon Eyes Demon King looked at that elegant figure, and he was instantly slightly stunned. Such a familiar figure, as though he had seen it before, but he could not remember. Hades' Era turned his head to look at the Demon Eyes Demon King, who had become vigilant, and said with a smile, "Oh? Is there a guest?" Bufang clasped his hands, walking out of the restaurant, coming to the front of that huge papillion. He circled it once, and from time to time, he would even extend his hand and pat it. After Bufang touched it once, he said, "Not bad, the meat quality is very good. Making a papillion steak should be very fragrant. Oh, the figure is also not bad. Those female papillions should like it a lot." When the Demon Eyes Demon King heard these words, his face was stunned. Good meat quality. Good figure, what exactly was this human thinking? Could it be that this guy was planning to eat the papillion? Impudent! The papillion is a creature of the netherworld. How can it be eaten by a lowly human like you? The Demon Eyes Demon King was enraged, explosively shouting. His aura rose, and nether energy appeared around his body. Savage! Suddenly, Hades' Era glared and roared, causing the Demon Eyes Demon King's aura to deflate. The Demon Eyes Demon King stared blankly at Hades' Era, not knowing what the other party was shouting about. Towards Hades' Era, the Demon Eyes Demon King always felt a kind of uneasy familiarity. "I can't even use a papillion to exchange for a few chili strips? Furthermore, when did you dare to speak on behalf of the netherworld?" Hades' Era said, covering half of his face with one hand. The Demon Eyes Demon King was stunned by these words. He almost choked on blood. Savage? Savage, your sister! The Demon Eyes Demon King was so angry that he was about to go crazy. Not allowing him to eat a papillion made him savage? He was the Ruin Prison's Demon King, a peak expert of the Ruin Prison. Why couldn't he speak on behalf of the Netherworld? Bufang shook his head, patting the huge papillion's body. Instantly, this papillion was kept into the heaven and earth farmland by him. Bufang, young man, you go in first. Leave a hot chili strip for I. After I deal with this three-eyed man, I'll come back to eat the chili strip. Hades Era flipped his elegant hair, saying to Bufang, Hot chili strip? The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. With a shake of his hand, several chili strips appeared. Bufang released a wisp of mental energy, wrapping it around the chili strip, causing it to float in the air. After doing all this, Bufang did not even turn his head back as he entered the kitchen. Seeing this scene, Hades Era instantly became excited, unleashing his full power. Boom! Hades Era's figure rapidly dashed out, his speed as fast as lightning. Practically before the Demon Eyes Demon King could react, a slap landed on the other party's face. The Demon Eyes Demon King had a dumbfounded look on his face. Then, he flew into a rage. After stabilizing his figure, the blood-black energy ball once again condensed on the vertical eye on his forehead, causing the air to boil. Die! A huge phantom of Hades instantly appeared behind Hades Era. That figure was tall, vast, and filled with an ancient and supreme aura. Its eyes were cold, as though it had seen through life and death. Once the phantom appeared, thunder rumbled in the sky. Puff! When the Demon Eyes Demon King saw this phantom, he almost choked to death on his own saliva. The energy ball in front of his forehead instantly leaked like a leaking balloon. You're the Lord of the Netherworld, Lord Hades? Hades Era indifferently looked at the Demon Eyes Demon King, arrogantly snorting. Then, he raised a hand, and the phantom behind him also raised a hand. A finger pointed out, and a huge finger pressed toward the Demon Eyes Demon King. The Demon Eyes Demon King finally knew what that bad feeling of familiarity was. This guy was actually the Lord of the Netherworld, the boss of Earth Prison, Lord Hades. This kind of existence was actually willing to do hard labor in a restaurant, transporting ingredients. No wonder the strongest Demon King did not dare to make a move against the Valley of Gluttony. You can't kill me. I'm the Ruin Prison's Demon King. The Demon Eyes Demon King looked at the finger that was getting closer and closer to his body, instantly letting out a roar. So what if you're the Ruin Prison's Demon King? Can't I, Hades, kill a Demon King? The deafening voice resounded, causing the Demon Eyes Demon King's heart to shrink. But after a long time, Hades Era sighed, pointing his finger down. The Demon Eyes Demon King felt as though he was being bombarded by a sea of nether energy, almost suffocating. His body was thoroughly cold. Hades's clothes stripping finger, rip! His clothes exploded, and the Demon Eyes Demon King stood rooted to the ground. The clothes on his body disappeared, and his heart was completely bare. Hades did not kill him, but he stripped off all the clothes on his body. Ha ha ha! As expected, you don't dare to kill me. Earth Prison's Hades. The Hades who is just a figurehead is nothing more than this. The Demon Eyes Demon King's vertical eye instantly widened, radiance rushing into the sky as he laughed loudly. You don't have the guts to kill me, because I'm the subordinate of the Ruin Prison's Lord. Hades Era calmly looked at the Demon Eyes Demon King who was laughing crazily, his brows instantly furrowing. Your words stab my heart. The Nether King said indifferently. You stab my heart, which is equivalent to hurting me. I'm going to retaliate. Stab your sister. The Demon Eyes Demon King instantly froze. In the next instant, the Demon Eyes Demon King felt his vision blur, and it completely turned into darkness. Hades pointed his finger down again. Just this finger alone caused the Demon Eyes Demon King's body to explode. Boom. The phantom behind Hades dissipated. Looking at a scarlet eyeball flying out, the corner of his mouth twitched. Raising his head, he looked at the sky and spat out a mouthful of saliva. Turning around, he sighed. Shaking his head, his gaze was deep and melancholic as he walked towards the restaurant. Above the sky, the clouds twisted, as though transforming into a huge eyeball. The eyeball turned, quietly dispersing. Hades entered the restaurant. Bufong lazily curled up on the chair. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, also calmly looked at Hades' era. What a joke! If it was me, Lord Go, I would have smacked that fool until not even dregs were left. Lord Go's gentle and magnetic voice rang out. Hades' era looked at Lord Go, took the spicy strip floating in the air, and held it in his mouth. You lazy dog, you're different from I, Hades' era said gloomily. I have a family to feed. How can a single dog like you compare? Lord Go expressionlessly looked at Hades' era, slowly raising his exquisite dog paw. The demon eyes demon king didn't die, but he wasn't far from it. Hades' era exploded with one finger, leaving only a demon eye that carried his remnant soul and flew away. The other demon kings in the Valley of Gluttony also felt the rapidly weakening aura of the demon eyes demon king, and they were all shocked. The demon kings furrowed their brows, planning to leave. But, you want to come and go as you please? Do you really think my hidden dragon continent is easy to bully? The heavenly secret Saint Sovereign roared. Starlight circled around his body, and the star compass spread out. A goblet appeared in his hand, with star wine flowing in it. This was like a signal. Almost all the Saint Sovereigns took out their goblet. The Demon King experts were disdainful. The Demon Frog's Demon King croaked, his demonic voice deafening. He exerted strength in his thighs, preparing to jump out of the Valley of Gluttony. However, the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign, who was fighting him, drank the wine in his cup in one gulp, roaring crazily. The clothes on his body exploded, and the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign's face was flushed. His aura exploded, suddenly multiplying several times. A wild roar. The Demon Frog's Demon King, who had leaped up, instantly froze. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign grabbed the thigh of the Demon Frog's Demon King, forcefully pulling him down from the sky, and smashing him into the sunset lake. The situation of the battlefield suddenly changed at this moment. Chapter 9:19. Boom. The lake water suddenly splashed, rushing into the sky. Then, the lake water that rushed into the sky instantly poured down, as if it was a heavy downpour. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign floated in the air, his entire body scarlet red. Steam rose from his body. The steam rolled, and when the lake water landed on his body, it was instantly evaporated. So hot. But it feels so good. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign opened his mouth, letting out a roar. His hair was like iron arrows, as if it wanted to pierce through the illusionary void. A golden ring appeared behind his head. Boom. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Ribbit. Even an ant dares to fight back. The Demon Frog's Demon King rushed out of the lake water, opening his mouth to let out a roar. His cheeks suddenly puffed up, and the water dragon around him spiraled. With a thought, the spiraling water dragon charged toward the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign to kill. The Rising Sun Saint Master let out a hearty laugh as he faced the move that had previously suppressed him to the point of being incomparably constrained. He punched out, and the scorching sun shone brightly. The water dragon instantly exploded. His feet stepped on the illusionary void, and the air exploded. His figure instantly appeared beside the Demon Frog's Demon King. Owner Boo's Acheron helplessness wine has limited time. I have to finish this battle quickly. The Rising Sun Saint Sovereign's eyes were scarlet red, and steam spurted out from his nose. Boom. Boom. In the next instant, the Rising Sun Saint Sovereign seemed to have turned into a human-shaped fighting machine. The blazing sun fists continuously bombarded out. The demon frog's demon king simply could not block them, and he was continuously bombarded. His figure smashed into the lake water. The rising sun saint sovereign roared, also rushing into the lake like an enraged beast. The lake water exploded, continuously evaporating. Sunset Lakeside, a giant crocodile crawled out with a panic-stricken face. Twisting its butt, it fled far away from the sunset lake. The wavering light saint sovereign elegantly gulped down Onerbu's Acheron helplessness wine. Her white face instantly became red, and her eyes became blurry. Her red lips stretched out, licking her lip. Then, her figure swayed as she charged toward the demon eagle's demon king in the sky. Shwa shwa shwa. Streaks of silk threads pierced down from the void like long spears. The demon eagle's demon master, who was about to spread his wings and take a deep breath, was instantly entangled. The demon eagle demon king's eyes constricted as he let out a cry. In the next instant, he charged at Sacred Lord Alcade with extreme speed. A woman who had drunk alcohol was not afraid at all. Alcade's Sacred Lord's hand shook, and thousands of silk cloths fell down. Alcade's Sacred Lord stepped on the silk, as if she was stepping on a rainbow, and charged forward. The two of them engaged in a great battle. They were evenly matched. The saint sovereigns who should have been crushed seemed to have turned the tables at this moment. He was actually evenly matched with the demon masters, and even directly crushed them. Very quickly, the demon masters also realized that something was wrong. The cultivation of these saint masters was continuously becoming stronger, and it made them feel a little strange. The demon eye's rapidly weakening aura also alarmed them. Therefore, many demon masters did not want to continue fighting and began to gradually leave the battlefield. The saint sovereigns were also helpless. Although they had drunk the Acheron helplessness wine, which could increase their battle power by several times, it was still a little difficult to make these demon masters stay. Moreover, if the other party wanted to leave, they could not make them stay. Some demon masters risked serious injuries to escape. The demon eye's demon master's crushing defeat made these demon masters feel a sense of fear. Originally, when they came to attack the Valley of Gluttony, their hearts were a little afraid. After all, even the strongest demon master was defeated here. They naturally had to be careful. In the Tautai restaurant, Hades Era sullenly held a chili strip in his mouth as he swallowed and spat at the side. Lord Go snorted, turning his head and lying under the path understanding tree. Hua obediently sat cross-legged, spiritual energy revolving around his body. Bufang, young man, right now, those saint sovereigns in the Valley of Gluttony should have drunk your Acheron helplessness wine, and their battle power has increased. Those demon masters might be in some trouble. Although Hades Era was swallowing and spitting out the chili strip, he was also sensing the situation in the battlefield. Oh, and then, said Bufang. Back then, those few cups of Acheron helplessness had indeed been exchanged for by these saint sovereigns. These saint sovereigns did not drink it back then, but instead, they drank it now during the great battle. Obviously, these saint sovereigns valued the explosive battle power effect of the Acheron helplessness wine. This made Bufang a little sad. The main point of his wine was not this effect, but the taste and deliciousness of the wine. Oh right, Bufang, young man, I forgot to tell you. Those few demon masters in the ruin prison are mostly not bad ingredient. After all, demon master level ingredients are still quite rare. Hades Era leaned on the chair, holding a chili strip in one hand, letting it move in and out of his mouth. He seemed to remember something, turning to look at Bufang, who was lying on the chair leisurely. Bufang was bewildered. Demon master level ingredients? It sounded pretty good. Bufang blinked his eyes, looking at Hades Era. Hades Era smiled at Bufang with a gloomy face. Just now, I got hurt, so I don't have any energy now. I just want to eat chili strips to relieve my worries. To this, Bufang was speechless, pouting his lips. Hurt, no energy? Only ghosts would believe your excuse, you're lazy, but you still have to find such an excuse. Bufang shook his head and looked at Lord Dog. When he saw that Lord Dog was snoring under the path understanding tree, he opened his mouth and smacked it, swallowing the words he was about to say. Forget it. I don't want to bother the Lord Go anymore. The Lord Go is probably irritated by the word single dog. Bufang stood up, walking to the door. Hades' era was curious. What did Bufang young man want to do? Chu Chongqing leaned against the wall. He was also a little curious. Although the battle outside was fierce, he knew he couldn't join it. When he reached the restaurant's entrance, he could still hear the continuous explosions. Bufang listened, but his face didn't change. He clasped his hands, walking down the stairs in front of the restaurant's entrance. He walked a few steps, then stood still. A moment later, Bufang closed his eyes. Buzz in his head, his calm spirit sea boiled. The divine dragon roared, its roar echoing. With his body as the center, Bufang's mental energy spread out in all directions. Soon, it covered the entire valley of gluttony. Hades' era, who was eating his spicy strip, was bewildered. Sensing Bufang's mental energy in the air, he almost choked to death on his spicy strip. This mental energy. Bufang young man's progress is really fast. His mental energy has almost reached the Demon King level. Hades' era exclaimed. Lord Go, who was lying under the path understanding tree, couldn't help but open his eyes, looking at Bufang in surprise. Apparently, Lord Go was also surprised by Bufang's power. With this look, Lord Go realized that Bufang's cultivation base had reached the divine spirit realm. Instantly, Lord Go took a deep breath, a little complicated. When he first met Bufang, this kid didn't even know what true energy was. And now, he had grown to this level? This speed was really fast. No wonder he was the kid who could get the resources of the Heaven Chief realm. But it's still not enough. You still have a long way to go. Bufang kid. Work hard. Lord Go snorted, closing his eyes. He lay down, continuing to sleep. Bufang's mental energy swept out, quickly covering the entire valley of gluttony. The Holy Lord powerhouses and Demon Master powerhouses who were currently fighting felt their hearts tremble, and their brows furrowed. They felt a mental energy that wasn't weaker than theirs covering them, which made them vigilant. However, in the next instant, their faces became strange. Saints sovereigns of the Holy Lands, please pay attention. We will be buying Demon King ingredients at a high price. Demon King ingredients can get a chance to spend 3 days in this restaurant for free. Moreover, they can get the chance to taste the dishes cooked by the Demon King ingredients first. This is a rare opportunity. Don't miss it. What? What did that mean? The Demon King experts who were fighting with the Saint Sovereigns were instantly bewildered. Those words made them slightly dumbfounded. Many of the Saint Sovereigns' faces became extremely strange. Buying Demon King ingredients at a high price. What was a Demon King ingredient? Many of the Saint Sovereigns were puzzled, subconsciously glancing at the Demon King experts who were fighting with them. Could it be that these experts were the Demon King ingredients that Owner Boo had mentioned? It seemed like they really were ingredients. Gulp. A portion of Demon King ingredient could get them to spend 3 days in Owner Boo's restaurant for free. Moreover, they could get the chance to taste Demon King level dishes first. Bufang's words were still echoing in their ears. Important things must be said 3 times. Bufang repeated his words 3 times. The Demon King experts were about to explode. They were the dignified Demon Kings of the ruined prison, supreme existences. They were actually being offered as ingredients in the hidden dragon continent. This was simply unforgivable. Who was the one who said those words? Come out. I promise I won't tear him into pieces. The Demon King experts were furious. However, they quickly realized that the Saint Sovereign's eyes had changed. They were looking at them as if they were looking at a treasure. This gaze caused the Demon Master experts to involuntarily shiver. Motherf *Cur. This lord isn't going to play with you anymore. You're all things that have taken drugs. The demon king roared. His figure instantly soared into the sky, turning into a giant demon eagle that covered the sun. Spreading his wings, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared into the horizon. The other demon kings also broke free and began to flee. They were really frightened by the eyes of these saint sovereigns. Today, these saint sovereigns had drunk wine, and their battle power was explosive. They might really fail miserably. The demon king croaked. His feet stepped on the surface of the lake, and the sunset lake instantly exploded. His figure was about to soar into the sky. However, just as he jumped, his mind trembled. He turned his head to look, realizing that his frog leg had been grabbed by someone. The rising sun saint sovereign's mouth was full of hot air. He was incomparably excited. "Stay here, you big bullfrog!" The rising sun saint sovereign roared, the veins on his neck bulging. His saliva was about to drip down. With a boom, the demon king was dragged down once again, smashing into the sunset lake. "Croak! You human, you're courting death. This lord is a demon frog, not a big bullfrog." The demon king popped his head out. The water dragons around him surged as he charged over. Suddenly, the demon frog's heart shook. His eyes turned, and he saw that in the distant horizon there were several black figures flying over. It was those saint sovereigns. They opened their mouths, and white gas spurted out. Their eyes stared at the demon frog. They were filled with greed and desire. The demon king was so scared that he peed. His figure instantly swelled, turning into a giant demon frog that was like a small mountain. This transformation made the saint sovereign's eyes even more radiant. Facing these gazes, the demon king's face was full of tears. "Croak? This lord is a demon frog. I'm really not a big bullfrog." Chapter 9:20. The demon king was really a little anxious. He wanted to run, but it was as if the rising sun saint leader was glued to his thigh. Every time he used his strength to leap up from the surface of the lake, he would always be pulled down by the rising sun saint leader and smashed into the lake. Every time there was an explosion, there would be a huge wave that would soar into the sky. Using his mental energy to sense the saint sovereign experts, whose auras were like the scorching sun, surrounding him, the demon king could only curse in his heart at this moment. His figure transformed into a huge toad the size of a small mountain. He opened his mouth and spat out a few spinning water bullets at the rising sun saint sovereign, wanting to blast the rising sun saint sovereign away. However, the rising sun saint sovereign's entire body was scarlet red, and his aura soared into the sky. White gas spurted out from his mouth as he punched out. It was like a scorching sun pressing down, completely evaporating the water bullet. After drinking a cup of Acheron helplessness wine, the rising sun saint sovereign's battle prowess rose to an extremely terrifying level. Streaks of starlight fell down like specks of starlight, enveloping the demon king that was the size of a small mountain. The starlight instantly became sharp and started to spin. It turned into a mysterious formation that bound the demon king. Heavenly secret technique, star bind. A dignified voice rang out. Then, in the sky, a figure stepped on the stars as he came over. The demon king's eyes were about to tear up. "It's over. This time, he really can't run away. Damn demon eyes, demon king. Isn't this a trap?" The demon king shouted nonstop. His body constantly emitted majestic nether energy, wanting to blast open that array. However, the rising sun saint sovereign suddenly soared into the sky, landed on his head, and sent a punch towards his head. This punch almost smashed the demon king's skull. Threads of silk fell down and spun up, binding up the demon king tightly. Only his head was left floating above the ground. A streak of sword light seemed to appear from the distant horizon. In an instant it slashed down, as though space was about to be torn apart. Tens of thousands of swords flew around the Dubhe Saint Master and crashed into the sunset lake, causing it to explode. The sword light turned into a net of sharp swords, making the demon frog demon not dare to move. Many sacred sovereigns stepped into the air and stared at him with sharp eyes. At this moment, Demon Frog's demon king felt really lonely. The other demon kings had all fled. That group of saint sovereigns, who looked as though they were on drugs, made them feel a sense of danger. This sense of danger made their pores open up. The look in his eyes was that of an ingredient. They were the saint sovereigns of the ruined prison. How could they become food for the creatures of the hidden dragon continent? This kind of thing was absolutely not allowed, so they temporarily ran away. As for the voice that announced that they were demon lord-level ingredients, it made their teeth itch with hatred. How could there be such a crazy person in this world? He even dared to treat the demon master as an ingredient. Where's Demon Frog? Didn't he run out? The demon eagle demon master and the other demon masters were slightly stunned. They looked at each other and realized that the demon frog demon master was missing. For a moment, the expressions of these demon masters became somewhat interesting. They looked at each other, looking at each other. Could it be that the demon frog's demon king was really left behind? Could it be that the demon frog was really treated as an ingredient and cooked? With the demon frog's cultivation, he should be able to escape, right? Many demon kings opened their mouths and said to each other. However, in the end, everyone's face was filled with fear. Why don't we go back and take a look? A demon king suggested, and this suggestion quickly received the agreement of all the other demon kings. Rip. The figures of the demon kings instantly turned into black shadows, tearing the sky, returning to the Valley of Gluttony once again. However, this time they did not go too deep. They just watched the battle from afar. From afar, they saw the demon frog's demon king, who had gathered thousands of lights on his body. Ardent sun true energy, thousands of sword lights, silk and silk strips, star array. Seeing that every saint sovereign's skill had landed on the demon frog's demon king, many of the demon kings who were secretly watching instantly twitched the corners of their mouths. Luckily, we ran fast. This group of crazy ants. When they gather together, it's pretty scary. The demon kings all secretly rejoiced in their hearts. At the same time, they felt sorrowful for the demon frog's demon king. The demon frog's demon king was beaten up. He was forcefully pressed into the sunset lake and beaten up. The lake water exploded, just like the demon frog's demon king's crumbling heart. The saint sovereigns floated in the air. An old man stepped on the air as he came over. The old man's body bloomed with extreme radiance, true energy like a dragon winding around him. Oh, this big bullfrog is really meaty. Rising sun Saint Sovereign, it seems like your luck is not bad. The old man had a tuft of white hair on his head, fluttering in the wind. Looking at the demon frog's demon king, who was subdued by many saint sovereigns, he said with a smile. It's a pity that there's only this big bullfrog left. The other demon kings have all run away. Otherwise, we could eat Onerbu until he's broke. The old man smiled evilly, rubbing the tuft of hair on his head as he said. Many of the saint sovereigns also felt that it was a pity. Although they had subdued this frog, this big bullfrog still belonged to the rising sun saint sovereign. After all, it was the rising sun saint sovereign who had been fighting this bullfrog. At this moment, the rising sun saint sovereign was so happy that he was going crazy. He sat on the demon frog's demon king's head and laughed foolishly. Suddenly, many of the saint sovereigns seemed to feel something, turning their heads to look at a corner of the sky. There, the demon king expert's hair stood on end, displaying their extreme speed as they fled in panic. This time, they didn't even turn their heads to look back. They would never come back. The demon frog's demon king was finished. Taotai restaurant. The restaurant's door was open. Bufong pulled a chair and sat in front of the restaurant. He curled up on the chair, squinting his eyes as he enjoyed the majestic wind blowing against him. He looked extremely satisfied. Hades' Era and Chu Chongqing also copied Bufang, pulling over chairs and curling up on them. The battle seemed to have ended. The unceasing explosions from before had completely disappeared. Not long after, the ground shook. From afar, a giant object slowly walked toward the restaurant. Bufang and the others were startled awake. Bufang lazily opened his eyes, calmly looking at the giant bullfrog that was slowly moving toward him. The rising sun Saint Sovereign lifted the hill-sized demon frog's demon king as he walked toward the Taotai restaurant step by step. The rising sun Saint Sovereign had terrifying strength. As he lifted the hill-sized demon frog, the muscles on his entire body bulged, crisscrossing like a horned dragon. His lines were clear, and he was filled with a valiant aura. Boom! In the end, the demon frog's demon king was carried in front of the restaurant. The rising sun Saint Sovereign panted heavily, his face filled with hope as he looked at Bufang. Owner Bu, this is the demon frog's demon king that fought with this Saint Sovereign. Can it be considered a demon king grade ingredient? The rising sun Saint Sovereign wiped the sweat on his forehead. With a leap, he landed on the demon frog's head. As he sat down, he stretched out his hand, patting the demon frog's head. Chu Chongqing gawked and dropped his jaw. What a big bullfrog! The corners of Hades' Era's mouth twitched. He gloomily took out a spicy strip, putting it in his mouth. He clicked his tongue in wonder as he walked out of the restaurant. Bufang young man's methods were really useful. Who would have thought that these Saint Sovereigns could really deal with a ruined prison's demon king? Looking at the huge demon frog that was covered in meat, Hades' Era involuntarily swallowed his saliva. Demon king meat. He was really looking forward to it. Bufang also walked out. The demon frog's demon king's face looked as if he had nothing left to live for. Being sized up like an ingredient made him feel a little depressed. He was the dignified ruined prison's demon king. All right, it's a pretty good demon king grade ingredient. I will keep my words. The rising sun Saint Sovereign will receive 3 days of free consumption in the store. Moreover, you will have the right to taste demon king grade ingredients first. Bufang clasped his hands, walking in front of the demon frog's demon king. After carefully sizing him up, he opened his mouth to speak. Roar! You ant-like human! How dare you judge this lord's life? The demon frog's demon king was enraged to the point of insanity. Although he was tied up, he still let out a deafening roar at Bufang. Wild winds seemed to howl, sweeping across the entire place. Bufang's hair fluttered unceasingly in this roar, and his vermilion robe also fluttered. Bufang clasped his hands, expressionlessly looking at the demon frog's demon king. You're quite active. I wonder if the chili in the heaven and earth farmland has ripened yet. Otherwise, it would be pretty good to make a dried pot bullfrog. How about the pickled pepper bullfrog? Bufang did not care about the demon frog's demon king's roar. He just sized him up while muttering. Then, he was too lazy to say anything. Raising his hand, he patted the demon frog's demon king's thigh. A buzzing sound rang out. The demon frog's demon king's huge figure instantly disappeared. Everyone was a little surprised. They did not know where the demon frog's demon king, who was as big as a small mountain, was brought to. Sizzle, heat spread. One by one, the Saint Sovereigns sat on the ground, exhausted. The energy on their bodies had completely dispersed, and their cultivation had already returned to its previous state. Moreover, they were a little dizzy. The Acheron of helplessness wine had a strong alcoholic effect. Each of them had a cup. After going berserk, they would definitely be dizzy for a while. Just nice, they could use this chance to enter Owner Bu's restaurant to eat something. After the great battle, their bodies were hollowed out. At this time, eating some delicious food was simply too wonderful. The Taotai restaurant's opening hours had not ended yet, so Bufang did not stop them from entering the restaurant. Then, after the saint sovereigns ordered the Holy Land disciples to repair the Valley of Gluttony, each of them reeked of alcohol as they drunkenly stepped into the Taotai restaurant. Once again, the restaurant began a busy day. Several hundred miles away from the Valley of Gluttony, the ruined prison's great army raised their heads, looking in the direction of the Valley of Gluttony. They were waiting for the Demon King's signal to attack the Valley of Gluttony. However, after waiting for a long time, there was still no news. Suddenly, their pupils shrank, because a black shadow was speeding over. Some of the experts were elated. Could this be the Demon King's message? However, very quickly, the faces of every ruined prison expert changed. Because what floated over was not the previously agreed message, but a blood-colored eyeball, an eyeball. That's the Demon Eye's Demon King's Demon Eye. Some experts of the Demon Eye race recognized it and roared in shock. What? The Demon Eye's Demon King's Eye was even blasted by someone? In the next instant, ear-rending sounds rang out. The ruined prison experts were all incomparably shocked. Raising their heads to look, they saw the incomparably powerful Demon Kings in their hearts, all flying back in panic. What exactly happened? Why were the Demon Kings so frightened and at a loss? Lord Demon Eagle's Demon King, why have you all returned? What happened to attacking the Valley of Gluttony? Some of the ruined prison experts asked in panic. The Demon Eagle's Demon King's hooked nose was almost crooked as he indifferently glanced at the expert who spoke. Attacking the Valley of Gluttony? Don't joke around. The Demon Eye's Demon King was already blasted. Let's go back to wash up and sleep. When the ruined prison experts heard this, they couldn't help but widen their eyes. And the Demon Frog Race's experts seemed to have realized something was different, and their voices began to tremble. Lord Demon Kings, where is my race's Demon Frog's Demon King? Regarding the Demon Frog Race's question, all the Demon Masters let out a sigh and looked at the Demon Frog Clan's powerhouses, revealing a sympathetic gaze. The Demon Frog's Demon King ran slightly slower. His majestic and heroic appearance will forever live in our hearts. Chapter 9:21. Outside the hidden Dragon Royal Court, on a pitch-black, towering mountain peak in the center of the mountain peak, there was a massive cave. A figure was sitting cross-legged inside the cave. That figure was huge, and his body was covered with dense demon marks. The demon marks twirled around him, making him look even more ferocious. That person was none other than the strongest Demon King, who was cultivating in seclusion. After being sealed in the Bronze Palace for 10,000 years, the strongest Demon King's cultivation had stagnated. Today, he needed to cultivate unceasingly to recover his body's functions. He needed to restore his cultivation to its peak state. Boom. Rumble. Boom. Inside the cave, thick nether energy twirled around. The thick nether energy seemed to materialize, covering the entire space. The strongest Demon King sat there. Every time he breathed, thick energy gushed out from his mouth and nose, turning into a winding dragon. All of a sudden, the strongest Demon King opened his eyes. His eyes were deep and profound, like the endless starry night sky, extremely dazzling. I told you not to provoke the Valley of Gluttony. You didn't listen. Seeking death? I haven't seen you for 10,000 years. It seems like my prestige isn't as it used to be. The strongest Demon King gently exhaled a mouthful of black, turbid air. There seemed to be energy moving under his body. After saying that, he closed his eyes again, not bothering about it anymore. The ruined prison's experts attacked the Valley of Gluttony. The Demon Eye's Demon King's Demon Eye was blown up, and the other Demon Kings fled pitifully. As for the Demon Frog Clan's Demon King, he could only stay in people's hearts. No one had expected such an outcome. The ruined prison's experts were shocked beyond words. However, the experts from the Holy Lands in the Valley of Gluttony felt a wave of encouragement. Everyone revealed an excited look. Their joyous mood filled the entire Valley of Gluttony. Of course, unlike the Valley of Gluttony's joy, the Taotai restaurant's business continued as usual. It was a busy day just like before. The Saint Sovereigns, who were a little drunk from the acheron of helplessness, hoped to eat the Demon King-level bullfrog. However, they were disappointed in the end. It was because Bufang did not choose to cook the bullfrog. According to Bufang, since it was a Demon King-level ingredient, he needed some time to brew it. Hence, the Saint Sovereigns felt very regretful. A day quickly passed amidst the many joyous emotions. He watched the last customer leave the restaurant. Chu Chongqing slumped on the chair, exhausted. Even he didn't understand why he should be so exhausted with his cultivation base. Why did he feel so weak every day after business ended? However, after Chu Chongqing had thought it through, he figured it out. As a waiter, he had to help Bufang serve the dishes, and serving the dishes was the source of his exhaustion. That was because every time he brought out a dish, the aroma of the dish made him want to eat it. However, the waiter's professionalism prevented him from choosing to steal the food. It was very difficult to suppress one's desire for delicious food. Thus, Chu Chongqing understood that he wasn't tired physically, but mentally. After greeting Bufang, Chu Chongqing returned to his room. And Ai Yen finally moved out. After all, she was the heavenly secret saintess. Naturally, she couldn't stay in Bufang's room every day. If this spread out, it wouldn't be good for her. It was late at night. The restaurant's doors were tightly shut. Inside the restaurant, a dim light flickered. The dim light shone on the pitch-black shop, making it appear somewhat quiet and secluded. Everything in the store was so peaceful and peaceful. The leaves of the path understanding tree were rustling. It was because Hua had stirred the leaves. Lord Go was snoring under the tree. Hua was sitting cross-legged, cultivating. The netherworld ship looked somewhat vicissitudes. The deck of the ship was covered with the marks of time. Yu was sitting on the deck, swinging her jade-like legs. Through the narrow slits of the restaurant's window, the moonlight shone. Tonight, the 2 crescent moons were half a silver plate. The 2 silver plates resonated in the void, creating some charm. The kitchen was brightly lit. The sound of splashing water rang out from within. Bufang shook the water off his hands, completing his night's cooking practice. After that, Bufang couldn't wait to enter the heaven and earth farmland. The sky in the farmland was very bright, showing a kind of azure blue. A few white clouds that looked like cotton candy slowly floated above. It gave people a sense of leisure. Bufang's figure entered, slowly landing on the ground. The current heaven and earth farmland had changed greatly. It was no longer as desolate as before. The farmland had been reclaimed, neatly divided into areas. Each area was filled by Bufang. Some areas had already started to harvest. On the side of the river, Bufang had opened up several fields to plant rice. As a chef, rice was a very important ingredient. After the spirit farmland was opened up, seedlings were planted in the fields. These weren't ordinary seedlings. They were seedlings provided by the system after Bufang had finished reclaiming the land. Guanine pearl tier rice. If this seedling was successfully planted, the rice it would grow would be Guanine pearl tier rice, which was a very high-grade spirit rice. Compared to the dragon blood rice that Bufang had before, the Guanine pearl tier rice was a grade better. Thus, Bufang was really looking forward to these 2 spirit fields. Nyo Han-san now had another task, which was to take care of the spirit fields. However, although it was said to be taking care of them, it was actually no different from slacking off. He sat on the recliner, leisurely enjoying the wind. A gust of wind blew past, causing the seedlings in the paddy fields to tremble slightly. All of a sudden, Nyo Han-san opened his eyes, because he could feel the ground shaking. Without a doubt, Bufang had entered the farmland. In the farmland, besides Bufang, no one else could cause such a commotion. 80 and little 3 ran out of the small wooden house, dumbfounded as they stared into the distance. There, a giant bullfrog the size of a small mountain was slowly pulled by Bufang. That bullfrog gave people a strong visual impact. It was like a small mountain. Of course, besides the hill-sized bullfrog, Bufang, who was pulling the bullfrog, also attracted their eyes. At this moment, Bufang was carrying a giant dragon bone kitchen knife. His vermilion robe fluttered in the wind, making him look extremely domineering. The demon frog's demon king was a little aggrieved. He didn't know what kind of place this was. His cultivation base was completely restrained, and he couldn't use the power of a demon king. Otherwise, he could slap this human chef to death with one slap. Nyo Han-san looked at the giant bullfrog, almost scared to death. This bullfrog? Oh no, this hill-sized demon frog, wasn't it the demon king of the demon frog clan? Could it be that even a demon king couldn't escape from Owner Boo's kitchen knife? How terrifying was this human? The demon frog expert wanted to resist, but in this world, he couldn't. Leaving the demon frog aside, Bufang stepped into the farmland. He went straight to an area where a kind of ruddy chili was planted. Exploding flame pepper, I hope you won't let me down. Bufang played with an exploding flame pepper, smiling faintly. Looking at the ripe exploding flame peppers, Bufang couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. As soon as the exploding flame peppers were ripe, he would have a chance to deal with this giant demon king-level bullfrog. After picking a basket of exploding flame peppers, Bufang began to deal with them. The ripe peppers in the farmland were all plump and ruddy. The demon frog's demon king looked at the peppers, his eyes filled with fear. No doubt, this human in front of him wanted to cook him. Boom, boom, boom. The demon frog's demon king turned around, wanting to jump away. He didn't want to die. As the demon king of the ruined prison, how could he become food for the humans of the hidden dragon continent? Absolutely not. After a while, the mountain-like demon frog's demon king disappeared. Nyo Han-san shivered, looking at the disappearing demon frog's demon king in the distance. His heart shivered. He was scared out of his wits. In just a short time, Bufang had finished cutting the demon frog with a kitchen knife. That knife had left a heavy psychological shadow in his heart. If he had chosen to resist, that knife would have slashed his body again and again. Bufang left, leaving Nyo Han-san and the three-eyed wild lion in the farmland. Nyo Han-san shivered. His lazy spirit was swept away, and he began to work hard to make the farmland full of vitality. Bufang returned to the restaurant. He poured the exploding flame peppers on the stove. These exploding flame peppers looked like they had flames burning in the middle, flickering between bright and dark. Cleaning the exploding flame peppers, he placed them on a plate. From the system-dimensional bag, he took out the demon frog meat that he had processed. This demon frog meat was worthy of being a demon king grade ingredient. The meat was so smooth and tender, and with one cut, spirit energy seemed to diffuse. Taking out some demon frog meat, he placed it on a blue and white porcelain plate. Pouring some ice heart jade urn wine into the bowl, he added thick oil and a few drops of abyssal chili sauce to marinate. This marinating process might take a while. The dragon bone kitchen knife spun in his hand. Bufang placed the peppers on the chopping board, cutting them into pieces. A wave of spicy aroma surged out, stimulating people's taste buds. The dish that Bufang wanted to cook this time was not that complicated. Taking out the black turtle constellation wok, he opened his mouth to spit out a dark gold heaven and earth obsidian flame. The heaven and earth obsidian flame drilled into the bottom of the wok, burning fiercely, making the wok warm. Pouring oil, the golden oil boiled in the hot black turtle constellation wok, splashing. Sizzle! 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 Pouring the marinated demon frog meat into the black turtle constellation wok, white steam surged up, and sizzling sounds echoed unceasingly. As soon as it entered the wok, the aroma burst out instantly. It was the aroma of the demon frog meat under the boiling hot oil. The demon frog meat, which was a little transparent, turned milky white at a speed visible to the naked eye. Bufang held the spatula in one hand and the black turtle constellation wok in the other, sniffing the aroma diffusing. His eyes were as calm as an ancient well. Shaking the wok and stir-frying, the demon frog meat began to roll in the wok. After fiddling with the demon frog meat for a while, Bufang fished out the demon frog meat, pouring it into a clean blue and white porcelain plate. Because of the surging hot air, the demon frog meat that was poured into the plate was slightly trembling. The milky white and transparent demon frog meat stimulated people's appetite. Reheating the wok, he added the purple garlic that Bufang had picked up from the heaven and earth farmland. Smashing the purple garlic, he put it into the wok and stir-fried it. After stir-frying a thick aroma, he added the chopped chili. The exploding flame pepper was as violent as its name. As soon as it entered the wok, it exploded. The energy was leaking and the spiciness was boiling. Bufang didn't panic at all. He grabbed the black turtle constellation wok, stir-frying it. Waiting until the energy in the wok calmed down and the color of the exploding flame pepper became more dazzling, he added the demon frog meat. Sizzle! Sizzle! This time, when the demon frog meat entered the wok, it seemed to have a chemical reaction. The aroma bursting out was several times thicker than before. Compared to just stir-frying the demon frog meat in the wok, this stir-frying with the purple garlic and exploding flame pepper brought out the demon frog meat's aroma vividly. Boom! 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 The flames in the black turtle constellation wok suddenly burst out. However, Bufang didn't care at all. He still shook the wok, stir-frying with the spatula. Finally, he poured in a little ice-heart jade urn wine and a little abyssal chili sauce. The flame was suppressed, and the aroma was almost boiling. Taking a round blue and white porcelain plate, he scooped out the stir-frying demon frog meat and poured it in. Finally, he poured the broth over it. The color was rosy and bright. The rosy demon frog meat slightly shivered, making people want to eat it. Bufang put down the spatula. He took a deep breath, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but rise. Stir-frying demon frog done. Chapter 9:22. Billowing steam rose from the blue and white porcelain plate. The rosy demon frog was placed on a plate, and dense steam rose up. The frog meat seemed to be slightly trembling under the surging steam. Soaked in the oil, the bright red exploding flame pepper looked like it had a burning flame. It was bright red, attracting people's eyes. Waves of spicy aroma rose from the exploding flame pepper. Amidst the spicy aroma, there was a faint aroma of wine. Smelling it, people couldn't help but feel hungry. Bufang looked at the stir-fried demon frog in front of him, his face a little relaxed. Holding his chopsticks, he picked up a piece of demon frog meat and put it in his mouth. Along with the steam, the demon frog meat entered Bufang's mouth. Bufang couldn't help but raise his brows. In his mouth, the smooth texture of the frog meat burst out instantly. It was full of elasticity. When he bit down, he could clearly feel the friction when his teeth cut through the frog meat. The frog meat was very elastic. When it was bitten in half, it bounced hard. Gently hitting the wall of his mouth, it brought a different texture. This feeling was indescribable. Bufang chewed. Instantly, besides the texture, the soft and delicious taste of the frog meat also spread. The frog meat was like silk, slipping down his throat and into his stomach. It was like a burning flame. Entering his stomach, the majestic spirit energy burst out instantly. However, to Bufang, this spirit energy was useless, because when Bufang tasted the dishes, he wouldn't absorb the spirit energy from the dishes. It was a little less fun. Bufang only ate a piece of meat, but he was very satisfied with the taste and feeling of the meat. After all, it was a Demon King level ingredient. Just using a little bit of meat to cook, the dishes he cooked were all top-grade delicacies. Stretching his body, Bufang carried the dishes, walking out of the kitchen. Outside, the sky was already bright. To cook a dish, Bufang had been busy for the whole night. Looking at the restaurant that was gradually brightening, Bufang stood at his spot in a daze for a while. Then, he placed the dishes on the table. Thinking about it carefully, the night passed very quickly. When Bufang entered the heaven and earth farmland, it was already pitch black, and the night sky was filled with stars. However, in the heaven and earth farmland, Bufang inspected the rice seedlings and observed many other ingredients. He also picked the ripe exploding flame peppers and processed them. After doing all this, he also dealt with the mountain-like demon frog's demon king. Even with Bufang's knife skills, it would take a lot of time to deal with the demon frog's demon master. Hence, it wasn't surprising that the sky was bright. Currently, Bufang's knife skills had reached the limit. He could even perfectly execute the Overlord 13 blades. For Bufang, it was an improvement in his cutting skills, but it also made Bufang confused. After all, he had already mastered the Overlord 13 blades. Was there any room for him to improve his knife skills? Sometimes Bufang would think about this question. However, the result was indisputable. Even if his Overlord 13 blades had reached the limit, it didn't mean that his knife skills had reached the limit. At that time, Bufang thought that the Valley of Gluttony was the limit of his cooking skills. However, he had never thought that there was still the Heaven Chief realm above the Valley of Gluttony, and now, he seemed to have just obtained the qualification to enter the Heaven Chief realm. What did it mean? It meant that the chefs in the Heaven Chief realm had exquisite cooking skills. It was a heaven that belonged to chefs. Hence, the knife skills naturally had stronger existences. Gently exhaling, Bufang closed his eyes to calm himself down. Thinking about the Heaven Chief realm, Bufang felt a little excited. He didn't know if it was because of the wisp of immortal energy that the system had absorbed. When Bufang opened his eyes again, he was dumbfounded. This was because a few figures had suddenly appeared in front of the originally empty space. He was wearing silk pajamas, and his silver hair cascaded. He was crouching in front of the dining table, his bright eyes gazing at the dishes on the table. Beside him was the cold and aloof Yu. It was unknown when Lord Go had also crouched on the table. His 2 dog paws were placed on the table. Those fellows had smelled the aroma, so they came here. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. Is this a dish cooked with demon frog meat? It smells good, but I don't feel anything special about it. Chu Chongsheng looked at the stir-fried demon frog, which was emitting steam and a fragrant aroma. He swallowed his saliva. The dish glowed, which showed that it wasn't ordinary. However, it didn't surprise Chu Chongsheng. Perhaps it was because Owner Bu had eaten too many amazing dishes. There are many ways to cook demon frog meat. I just chose the simplest one. This dish is a test dish. I just want to taste the frog meat, said Bufang. Chu Chongsheng and the others nodded. Then, they all reached out their chopsticks. Hua also came to the table, blinking her big, cute eyes. The tri-flower snake pupils in her eyes were slowly spinning. Anyway, it's really spicy. Chu Chongsheng sucked in a mouthful of saliva and said. He picked up a piece of rosy demon frog meat, and the gravy dripped from it. The originally milky white demon frog meat was cooked until it was a little red. The spicy taste and the aroma were intertwined. A piece of frog meat entered his mouth. Chu Chongsheng's body stiffened, and the light in his eyes became more dazzling. It was a look of shock. This taste. It's really incredible. Boom. Boom. Chu Chongsheng felt as if his body was being attacked by a tremendous force. The demon frog meat seemed to be jumping in his body. Chu Chongsheng couldn't help but cover his face. His face was filled with warmth. Good. Delicious. So spicy. Chu Chongsheng exclaimed. There was a tearing sound. The silk pajamas on his body were instantly torn into pieces that filled the sky. Nethery also slowly picked up a piece of demon frog meat and put it in her mouth. She narrowed her eyes and chewed delicately. Delicious food could make people feel peaceful. You just wanted to eat quietly like that. Lord Go also picked up a piece of meat. The spicy taste made Lord Go grimace. Seeing that everyone was eating with relish, Flowery was also a little anxious. Bufang looked at the little girl, who was anxious but couldn't eat. He couldn't help but pick up a piece of meat for her. Don't rush. Eat slowly, Bufang said casually. Flowery, who had eaten the meat, narrowed his eyes and felt the demon frog meat blossoming in his mouth. So delicious! Bufang picked up an exploding flame pepper, which had thick gravy on it. The gravy dripped, steaming hot. Shoving the exploding flame pepper into his mouth, Bufang closed his eyes and chewed. Because of the stir-frying, the exploding flame pepper had become much softer. As soon as he put it in his mouth, it felt a little mushy. Anyway, it was the food he had grown himself. Eating it, Bufang felt a strange sense of satisfaction. With good food, how could he not have good wine? For the time being, Bufang didn't have the acheron of helplessness. He didn't go to Earth Prison to pick the acheron grass and the flower of helplessness. Thus, it was impossible to brew it again. Anyway, even if he didn't have the acheron of helplessness, Bufang still had many other good wines. His hand shook, and a white jade jar appeared in Bufang's hand. He opened the lid, and thick wine aroma wafted out. Swish! The clear wine was poured. Bufang poured everybody a cup. Drinking good wine, eating the stir-fried demon frog, that kind of comfortable feeling really made people feel a bit satisfied. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Bufang opened the restaurant's door, preparing for the day's business. Outside the restaurant there was a long line. Bufang looked at the line, exhaling. A busy day began once again. Time was ticking away slowly. The hidden dragon continent had fallen into a rare moment of peace. The invading ruin prison's experts stayed in the north of the Valley of Gluttony. They didn't think about invading again. Since the demon frog's demon king was slow and was left in the Valley of Gluttony, many demon kings were vigilant. Even the strongest demon king didn't dare to offend the Valley of Gluttony. What did they have to stir up trouble? Thus, the demon kings didn't stir up trouble, and the other ruin prison's experts stayed in the hidden dragon continent. However, as time passed, an indescribable sense of urgency began to spread in the air. The Holy Land's experts in the Valley of Gluttony occasionally looked in the direction of the ruin prison's experts. They couldn't help but feel their hearts palpitate. The void seemed to have black clouds rolling and thunder roaring. Of course, none of this had anything to do with Bufang. Pushing open the light door, Bufang came to the Cloud Mist restaurant. Yang Meiji and Sorceress and Sheng were cooking in full swing. Seeing owner Bu, the two of them weren't surprised at all. They casually greeted him and continued with their work. After Bufang taught them some cooking details, he stepped through the light door, arriving at Fong Fong's little store. In the kitchen of Fong Fong's little store, Xiao Xiaolong was busy stir-frying. The dish was boiling in the black wok. The broth splashed and steam rolled. Next to him, Yu Fu was quietly watching with a gentle smile. Her eyes were full of admiration. All of a sudden, the light door opened and Bufang walked out. His vermilion robe slowly fluttered. I was right, wasn't I? With owner Bu's personality, he will definitely show up. Xiao Xiaolong saw Bufang. He put down the black wok, and with a shake of his spoon, the dish in the wok was scooped out and placed on a plate. Bufang was a little surprised. He didn't expect Yu Fu to show up here. Wasn't this girl the Serpentine sovereign of the Grand Serpentine City? Owner Bu, you're finally here. Yu Fu looked at Bufang. Her serpentine tail gently swayed, and a smile bloomed on her beautiful face. What? Do you need something from me? Bufang was puzzled. Yu Fu looked at Bufang and nodded seriously. All right, let's talk outside. Xiaolong, continue to practice cooking, Bufang said, clasping his hands. The kitchen wasn't a place to talk, and Bufang didn't like to talk in the kitchen. Thus, he told Xiao Xiaolong to continue cooking while he brought Yu Fu to the restaurant. Oh, it's owner Bu. Long time no see. Do you still remember me, old Jean? As soon as they entered the restaurant, the atmosphere was extremely lively. Many diners were waiting for their dishes. The fat old Jean looked at Bufang, and his eyes narrowed into a thin line. After greeting the diners, Bufang found a seat, and Yu Fu sat opposite him. "Tell me, what made a serpentine sovereign like you come to the Light Wind Empire?" Bufang asked. Yu Fu took a deep breath, looked at Bufang, and said seriously, "Owner Bu, a month ago, the oceanic species experts came to the Grand Serpentine City again." Oceanic species experts? What? They want to attack the Grand Serpentine City again? Bufang was puzzled. But didn't Ao Bai say that the oceanic species wouldn't attack the Grand Serpentine City again? No. This time, they specifically asked to see you. The oceanic species emissary said that the Black Dragon King of the oceanic species sincerely invited you and the Shrimp Ancestor to the Dragon Palace, Yu Fu said. Me and the Shrimp Ancestor? It seems like the Black Dragon King's target isn't me, but… Xiaopi. I'm just an extra. Bufang drank a cup of wine, and the corners of his mouth twitched as he muttered. Yu Fu looked at Bufang. Owner Bu, the Endless Sea is very dangerous, and the Oceanic Species Dragon Palace is even more dangerous. You shouldn't go there. Hearing Yu Fu's concern, Bufang's mouth twitched, and he drank the wine in his cup in one gulp. I'll go, why not? I've been thinking of cooking a seafood feast recently. Moreover, the Heaven and Earth farmland should open up an area to breed seafood. Chapter 923. After receiving Yu Fu's message, Bufang returned to the Taotai restaurant. Pulling a chair, he sat in front of the restaurant. Feeling the comfortable breeze on his face, Bufang closed his eyes, taking a nap. After resting for a while, Bufang opened his eyes, sinking into his thoughts. Of course, he had to go to the Endless Sea. It was time to go there. After all, when he got a wisp of immortal energy from the Heaven Chief Realm, the system had told him that the gate to the Heaven Chief Realm would open in 3 years. At that time, Bufang would have to go to the Heaven Chief Realm. Now, 3 years had passed. Bufang thought it was time for him to go to the Endless Sea. Of course, before going there, Bufang had something he needed to solve. He needed to find an apprentice chef for the Taotai restaurant. That's right, just one. Compared to the Cloud Mist restaurant and Fong Fong's little store. This time, the system only asked Bufang to find one apprentice chef for the Taotai restaurant. If he just needed to find one, it would be easy. However, who should he choose as his apprentice chef? It gave Bufang a headache. In the Valley of Gluttony, there were many talented chefs, and Bufang could choose them. However, it was hard for Bufang to choose one. After thinking for a long time, Bufang couldn't think of a suitable candidate. Rubbing his head, Bufang turned around and entered the kitchen, starting today's cooking practice. Later, he had to prepare for business. Hades' era came, and the first Valley Master of the Valley of Gluttony also entered the restaurant. The two of them had a good relationship. They often met in Bufang's restaurant, and their relationship was really good. The old man rubbed the tuft of white hair on his head. His eyes squinted, and a beam of light appeared in them. 3 years were almost up. Recently, the old man had a sense of urgency in his heart. He had been waiting for the opportunity to enter the Heaven Chief realm for a long time. He would definitely not let go of this opportunity. Currently, the experts of the Ruin Prison and the natives of the Hidden Dragon Continent were divided, forming a stalemate. However, because of the Valley of Gluttony, this stalemate had never been broken. The Elder knew that once the opportunity of the Heaven Chief realm was exposed, those Demon Master powerhouses, as well as the strongest Demon Master, would definitely not let go of that opportunity. Therefore, when the time came, there would definitely be a bitter battle. And the key to all of this was this little chef in front of him. The old man looked at the busy Bufang, then raised his cup and took a sip of wine, exhaling lightly. The old man didn't know that while he was sizing up Bufang, Bufang was also sizing him up. Bufang was having a headache over who would be the next apprentice chef, so he had to consider and choose the people he saw. After staring at the old man for a while, Bufang shook his head regretfully. This old man didn't meet his requirements. It was mainly because he was too old. After placing the dishes by the window, Chu Chongqing skillfully placed them in front of the diners. A figure walked in unhurriedly from outside the door. His shirt was unbuttoned, revealing his fair chest. His unrestrained appearance attracted the attention of many customers. That person wasn't a stranger. He was the chef in the top 10 of the Tablet of Gluttony, Wenren Shang. Wenren Shang wore a warm smile on his face. He looked a little skinny. Although he was a chef with a restaurant in the Valley of Gluttony, he wasn't like the other chef. Every few days, he would go to Bufang's restaurant and order a dish and a glass of good wine. Of course, it was mainly to drink. Every time he came, he would go back drunk. Wenren Shang had a special love and pursuit for good wine. He also brewed good wine, which was called bamboo tube wine. However, after tasting the wine in Bufang's restaurant, Wenren Shang never brewed bamboo tube wine again. He was a man who could sell his entire family's fortune for a cup of acheron of helplessness. Bufang's eyes brightened as he looked at Wenren Shang. It seemed that Wenren Shang was a good choice. Wenren Shang's cooking skills were undoubtedly excellent. If he could trick him into becoming an apprentice chef, it would save Bufang a lot of trouble. Sizzle! Sizzle! The wok shook and steam rose. After ladling the dishes onto a blue and white porcelain plate, Bufang took a jar of Iceheart jade urn wine and walked out of the kitchen with it. Chu Chongqing didn't expect that Bufang would walk out of the kitchen. He looked at Bufang suspiciously. However, Bufang didn't care about him. Instead, he walked directly to Wenren Shang. Your Iceheart jade urn wine. Bufang placed a jar of wine in front of Wenren Shang, speaking casually. Wenren Shang glanced at Bufang, then grabbed the jar of Iceheart jade urn wine. He opened the lid and started to drink. Looking at Wenren Shang, who was enjoying his wine, Bufang considered his words. He didn't know how to start the conversation. It wasn't easy to make Wenren Shang his apprentice chef. No matter what, Wenren Shang was a chef with exquisite cooking skills. His cooking skills were all-round, but his hobby was to brew wine. When Bufang swept the chefs on the Tablet of Gluttony, Wenren Shang was defeated by Bufang. So, would he still want to be his apprentice chef? Bufang thought that he needed to consider this question. Moreover, he needed to choose his words carefully. Gulp, gulp. Wenren Shang continued to drink. The wine trickled down the corners of his mouth, sliding down his white chest. Wenren Shang couldn't help but exhale a mouthful of white smoke as he drank half a jar of wine in one gulp. The refreshing feeling penetrated his heart. Owner Bu, just say what you want to say. Wenren Shang glanced at Bufang, the corners of his mouth curling into a smile. He saw through me? If so, Bufang clasped his hands, placing them on the table. Then, he looked at Wenren Shang. The people around were curious. They didn't know what Bufang wanted to do. Wenren Shang's body stiffened under Bufang's gaze. He couldn't even drink his wine to his heart's content. My restaurant needs an apprentice chef. Are you willing to be my apprentice chef? As soon as Bufang opened his mouth, he got straight to the point. He didn't beat around the bush. As soon as he said that, the crowd burst into an uproar. Owner Bu wanted to take Wenren Shang as his apprentice chef? How could it be possible? Wenren Shang was a first-grade chef, and he had the pride of a chef. How could he be someone else's apprentice chef? How could Bufang make such a request? Even if they closed their eyes, they knew that Wenren Shang would refuse him. The old man rubbed the tuft of white hair on his head, smiling with interest. Indeed, Owner Bu had started to arrange things, hadn't he? As time flew, the time to the opening of the Heaven Chief world was getting closer. Owner Bu was a little anxious. However, choosing Wenren Shang as his apprentice wasn't the right choice. Of course, Hades' era didn't care about that. He sat aside, holding a spicy strip in his hand, walking in and out. In fact, he was also having a headache. The main reason was that his spicy strips were about to run out. He felt that he had to find a reason to ask Bufang for a few spicy strips. Otherwise, he would go crazy if he ran out of food. Wenren-shang's Adam's apple moved. He lifted his sleeve to wipe his moist mouth. Owner Bu, are you kidding me? Although I, Wenren-shang, am a little wild and unrestrained, I have my own pride. I admit that your cooking skills are better than mine, but it's impossible for me to become your apprentice chef, Wenren-shang said. Then, he took another sip of wine. To exchange for the Acheron helplessness wine, Wenren-shang had even pawned his restaurant in the Valley of Gluttony. Today, he was all alone in the world. However, even so, he was still a proud man. If Bufang wanted to take him as his apprentice chef, what could Bufang teach him? Knife skills, carving skills, and cooking skills. As a first-grade chef, he was good at all of them. What could Bufang teach him? However, Bufang's serious eyes made him frown. And what Bufang said next made his face change dramatically. Is the wine tasty? Bufang asked, his face emotionless. Wine. 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 Bufang's wine. Wenren-shang's eyes shrank to the size of a mung bean. Ice Heart Jade Urn Wine, Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew, and Acheron Helplessness Wine. Do they taste better than the last? Asked Bufang. Gulp. Wenren-shang's body stiffened. When he heard Bufang's words, he couldn't help but shiver. Beads of sweat rolled down his face. No matter if it was the Frost Blaze Path Understanding Brew or the Acheron Helplessness Wine, each of them made him deeply intoxicated. Especially the Acheron Helplessness Wine. As soon as he opened the jar, the wine aroma filled the entire Valley of Gluttony. What kind of wine was that? Wenren-shang had tasted the Acheron Helplessness Wine before. It was a wine that could penetrate deep into the soul. It was a wine that people would never forget. Looking at Bufang's calm eyes, Wenren-shang knew he was wrong. Do you want to learn? Be my apprentice chef. I'll teach you. Bufang's voice didn't fluctuate in the slightest. Wenren-shang shivered. Then, under the incredulous gazes of the onlookers, he slowly drank all the wine in his jar. Wiping his mouth, he stood up and solemnly took a step back. He bowed to Bufang. If he wanted to learn wine-making techniques, he was willing to be Bufang's apprentice chef. I'm willing to be Owner Bu's apprentice chef. I want to learn wine-making techniques from Owner Bu, Wenren-shang said solemnly. Bufang looked at Wenren-shang with satisfaction, the corners of his mouth rising. The onlookers gawked and dropped their jaws, their faces bewildered. Is it just an illusion? Chef Wenren-shang agreed to be Owner Bu's apprentice chef? Oh my god! It's another big event after the Demon King's attack. Chef Wenren-shang has become Owner Bu's apprentice. It's too scary. It's too exciting. I can't believe it. The onlookers couldn't help but exclaim. Everyone was shocked. Owner Bu had accepted an apprentice chef, and he was a first-grade chef. This had completely changed the knowledge of the onlookers. Looking at Wenren-shang, who bowed to him, Bufang's eyes focused because he could feel the other's sincere desire to learn. Wine-making techniques? Bufang contemplated. His wine-making techniques weren't easy to learn. Since you're my apprentice chef, follow me. Bufang scanned the onlookers, then said to Wenren-shang. Then, Bufang turned around, bringing Wenren-shang to the kitchen. Also, the restaurant's business will continue. Everyone, please order your dishes. Bufang's ethereal voice drifted out of the kitchen as soon as he entered. Wenren-shang, who was following Bufang, felt his heart lifted. It seemed no one had ever entered Owner Bu's kitchen before. Walking through the kitchen's door, Wenren-shang saw the scene in the kitchen. His pupils constricted more and more. Chapter 924. Is this AF * King Kitchen? It was the first time Wenren-shang had seen Bufang's kitchen. Looking at the kitchen equipment and tools that were totally different from what he remembered, he was bewildered. Buzz, standing at the kitchen's entrance, Wenren Shang's eyes were bewildered. The spacious and clean kitchen had shocked him greatly. The sparkling kitchen utensils and cabinets had completely changed his view of the world. Suddenly, a wave of thunderclaps resounded. Wenren Shang was startled. He turned around and saw an iron puppet standing at the kitchen's entrance. A gold mantis shrimp was lying on the puppet's head, spitting bubbles. The puppet's eyes were filled with lightning sparks, and electric arcs were dancing on its body. From time to time, the electric arcs would strike the mantis shrimp lying on the puppet's head, causing it to tremble uncontrollably as it spat bubbles out of its mouth. Lord Bai. Of course, Wenren Shang knew Xiao Bai. He had witnessed Xiao Bai's invincible power, fighting against the ruined prison's experts, and resisting the lightning punishment. He respected Xiao Bai from the bottom of his heart. Don't stand at the door. Come in and familiarize yourself with the tools in the kitchen. If you want to learn how to brew wine, you need to be familiar with many tools. Bu Fang's faint voice arose from the kitchen, interrupting Wenren Shang's train of thought. Wenren Shang hurried to get in. His respect for Xiao Bai couldn't compare to Wenren Shang's interest in this kitchen. This kitchen was totally different from the ones he had seen before. Even the kitchen of the Gluttony Gods building, the most luxurious kitchen in the Valley of Gluttony, didn't have a special charm compared to Owner Bu's kitchen. To cook well, of course, he had to learn how to use the tools. Thus, Bu Fang patiently taught Wenren Shang how to use the kitchen utensils. As Wenren Shang had become Bu Fang's apprentice, the news had swept the entire Valley of Gluttony in just a blink of an eye. Many people exchanged looks as they couldn't believe it. Why? Wenren Shang was a first-grade chef with the potential to become a special-grade chef, but he had become Owner Bu's apprentice. What was an apprentice chef? Only the students of Owner Bu were called apprentices. Even if Owner Bu's cooking skills were superb, as a first-grade chef, Wenren Shang should have his own pride. How could he become someone else's apprentice so easily? This was a form of humiliation. Many chefs sighed endlessly with regret, and they sighed for Wenren Shang because making such a decision that went against his beliefs might cause Wenren Shang's accomplishments in his lifetime to come to an end. Phoenix Pavilion. Ah! Wenren Shang, that stinking brat, actually became Owner Bu's apprentice chef. I actually missed such a good opportunity to get close to Owner Bu. The employees of the Phoenix Pavilion were speechless as they looked at the regretful Mu Qing. The latter was wearing a loose robe that covered her voluptuous figure. Her hair was loose, and she didn't have any makeup on her face, but she still looked very charming. However, at this moment, Mu Qing dropped her jaw, gritting her teeth in regret. Different from the others who felt sorry for Wenren Shang, Mu Qing felt extremely regretful. If she could, she also wanted to become Owner Bu's apprentice chef. If she could become Owner Bu's apprentice, she would have more time to interact with Owner Bu. Then, something unspeakable would happen. Too bad, why did she miss such a good chance? When she was tired, she asked the others to leave. Then, she leaned against the window of the Phoenix Pavilion, looking at the brightly lit Taotai restaurant. Her red lips parted as she exhaled. Could this be the arrangement of fate? I'm not convinced. The night was dark and windy. Wenren Shang was walking on a small road in the Gluttony God City, heading to his house. At this moment, his mind was in a state of shock. It was because he had encountered something new. He had never thought that cooking could be done like this, or that he could use so many tools. The convenience of those tools was beyond his imagination. Owner Bu is a chef with a creative spirit, Wenren Shang praised inwardly. Wenren Shang sighed in admiration. Then, he turned around and stepped into a dark alley. All of a sudden, Wenren Shang felt his vision darken. A big sack suddenly appeared, falling from the sky and covering his entire body. What's going on? Wenren Shang was bewildered one more time. Under the bright sky, someone dared to use a sack to cover a first-grade chef? Wenren Shang was startled and raged. His cultivation base wasn't weak, either. With a roar, he planned to use his true energy to burst the sack. However, boom! As soon as Wenren Shang's true energy rose, a giant force pounded on his body, scattering his true energy. Wenren Shang's eyeballs almost popped out. Boom! Wenren Shang felt as if his face was hit by a rock, and his eyes hurt. Who dares to cause trouble in the Valley of Gluttony? Wenren Shang's true energy revolved, and his divine soul realm cultivation base burst out. However, it was like a stick in his head. Wenren Shang felt like his head got punched again. He didn't want to live anymore. What kind of grudge did that person have to use a sack to cover him and beat him up? People say that you shouldn't hit someone's face. Why did that person hit his face every time? Wenren Shang felt helpless as he was pressed on the ground. Punches and kicks were thrown everywhere. After a long time, Wenren Shang was too lazy to struggle. Every time he was hit, he would just scream. A soft gasp arose. It was a gentle gasp with a hint of a woman's moan. Mu Cheng's eyes widened. Her body was wrapped in black clothes, which vividly displayed her fiery figure. Every time she moved, her towering breasts would shake violently. Looking at Wenren Shang, who was like a dead pig that wasn't afraid of boiling water, Mu Cheng gritted her teeth. Eventually, she stomped her feet and turned to leave. After beating Wenren Shang up, she finally vented some of her anger. When there was no more movement, Wenren Shang flipped and stood up. True energy burst out, tearing the sack into pieces. Who dares to ambush your uncle Wenren Shang? If you have the guts, come out. Let's fight one-on-one. There was nothing in the alley except for Wenren Shang's roar, which reverberated in the air. The cold moonlight sprinkled from the sky, shining on Wenren Shang's body, which made him look a little cold. At this moment, Wenren Shang was in a difficult situation. One of his eyes was swollen, with a black mark on it. His nose was red and swollen, with drops of blood trickling down. Wenren Shang, whose face was swollen, felt a little suffocated. Who did he offend? He was beaten up in front of his own house. Mainly, he could feel that the person who beat him had a higher cultivation base than him. Otherwise, he would have gotten rid of the sack a long time ago. Since he couldn't find the enemy, Wenren Shang could only open the door and return to his room. In the distance, on the black-tiled roof, Mu Cheng sat quietly. She took off the mask on her black clothes, sighing. The next day, when Wenren Shang came to the restaurant, everybody had a strange look on their faces. Looking at Wenren Shang's swollen face, they couldn't help but laugh. When Hades Era saw Wenren Shang, he laughed with a spicy strip in his mouth. His laughter seemed to be able to tear the roof off. Wenren Shang was enraged, glaring at Hades Era. It must be that fellow who did it. That fellow was jealous of his beauty, so he put a sack over his head and beat him in the middle of the night. Bufang walked out of the kitchen, his face emotionless as he looked at Wenren Shang. He didn't smile, which comforted Wenren Shang. However, when he saw Bufang's twitching mouth, Wenren Shang felt like an invisible arrow had pierced his chest. Can't we just play happily? After teaching Wenren Shang how to cook some dishes, Bufang had more free time. After all, compared to Xiao Xiaolong and the others, Wenren Shang's foundation was much more solid. He could learn with just one lesson, which saved him a lot of trouble. Clasping his hands, Bufang walked around the restaurant. While walking, he was thinking about the trip to the endless sea. Pulling a chair, he sat in front of the restaurant, watching the flowers bloom and wither outside. Heading to the endless sea. Bufang squinted. If he wanted to go to the sea, of course, he had to find a boat. If he didn't have a boat, it would be hard to move even an inch in the sea. Of course, with Bufang's cultivation base, he could tread on the wave. However, it would make Bufang tired, and he wouldn't be able to calm down and cook seafood. It was a serious problem. All of a sudden, Bufang, who was lying on the chair, straightened his body. He turned to look at the path understanding tree. There, Yu was holding an iced sour plum juice, enjoying it. Her eyes squinted, and her white face showed a gleam of satisfaction. She sat on the netherworld ship, swinging her long, white legs. Her long, black hair fanned. Bufang looked at you, his eyes brightening. Hades Era, who was sitting next to Bufang, couldn't help but widen his nostrils when he saw Bufang's appearance. I say, Bufang young man, don't tell me you're thinking about Nethery? I'm telling you. You should give up. You won't have a good ending. Hades Era said seriously with a spicy strip in his mouth. Bufang's face stiffened. He turned to look at Hades Era, looking at him as if he was an idiot. Then, Bufang stood up and walked toward you. Walking in front of you, Bufang looked at you, who was drinking the iced sour plum juice. He turned around and sat on the deck of the netherworld ship. Lord Go and Hua, who were lying under the path understanding tree, couldn't help but open their eyes. A child and a dog looked at each other with a gossipy gaze. You, is the iced sour plum juice good? Bufang asked. You was stunned. She coldly turned her head and looked at Bufang. It's not as good as the dragon blood rice or the braised blood lobster. Yu's words made Bufang pause. Then, which one is better? Braised blood lobster or the dragon blood rice? Yu muttered to herself. While drinking the iced sour plum juice, she pondered seriously. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. You, owner Bu, I'm going out to sea soon. Can I borrow your netherworld ship? Bufang asked. Hades Era, who was drinking a mouthful of wine from afar, instantly spat out all the wine in his mouth when he heard Bufang's words. Bufang, this young man, really knew how to play. He actually borrowed the netherworld ship from Nethery to go out to sea. Was the netherworld ship used to sail on the sea? The netherworld ship sailed on the void of a secret realm, not the sea of stars. As expected, once Bufang's words left his mouth, Yu's gaze instantly became extremely sharp. That sharp gaze made Bufang's hair stand on end. The netherworld ship enters the void of a secret realm, not the vast sea, Yu said solemnly. With a gulp, she drank the iced sour plum juice in one gulp. Looking at Yu's solemn expression, Bufang immediately shook his head regretfully. You can't go to sea? Then forget it. I originally wanted to go to the boundless sea to catch big lobsters to eat. I heard that steamed lobsters are not inferior to the braised blood lobster. Since you don't want to go, I'll go find someone else. Bufang muttered with incomparable regret. Yu's body stiffened, and she immediately spat out the sour plum juice. Wiping away the juice in her mouth, Yu expressionlessly looked at Bufang. The netherworld ship is omnipotent. It can go up to the sky or into the sea. I promise you. When do we leave? In the distance, Hades Era, who was prepared to watch the show, almost choked to death on his spicy strip, changed. Little sister Nethery changed. Where are your perseverance, your principles? Little sister Nethery wasn't like this in the past. Chapter 925. Hundreds of miles away from the hidden dragon royal court, there was a towering black mountain surrounded by dense nether energy. The entire mountain was enveloped in dense netherworld energy, and it was filled with a terrifying aura. At the top of the mountain was a palace of white bones. In the hall, the 6 demon lords sat on their seats with gloomy expressions. In the center of the hall, there was a blood-red eyeball floating. The owner of the blood-colored eyeball was none other than the former Demon Eye Lord. It was just that the Demon Eye's Demon Lord was left with only one eyeball, which was rather miserable. Demon Eye, are we really going to do this? A Demon Master looked at the floating eyeball and couldn't help but take a deep breath. There's no other way. With the Valley of Gluttony, we can't attack the south of the hidden dragon continent. However, this world is so big. Besides the vast continent, there's also the boundless sea. A rather steady voice sounded. Black energy swirled around the eyeball, which then transformed into a human silhouette. Shall we change our target to the endless sea? A demon master asked in confusion. They knew that there was an endless sea above the hidden dragon continent. However, compared to the hidden dragon continent, the endless sea was immeasurably deep and full of powerful creatures. Moreover, the experts of the ruined prison rarely fought in the sea. They weren't sure if they could still display their true fighting power in the sea. Therefore, if they really invaded, it would be troublesome. If only the demon frog demon king was still here. One of the demon masters was enraged and punched the chair, causing it to shatter. The surrounding demon masters also sighed. Demon Frog's demon master would forever live in their hearts. Attacking the Valley of Gluttony, these demon kings suffered huge losses. Not to mention the Demon Eyes demon king whose body was destroyed. Just the fact that the Demon Frog's demon king couldn't come back was enough to hurt the ruined prison's experts. Since we can't break through the south of the Valley of Gluttony, we can only change our target to the Endless Sea. Prepare. Tomorrow we will go to the Endless Sea. I heard that the Endless Sea has countless treasures and resources. Perhaps, compared to the continent, the Endless Sea is more suitable for us. The Demon Eye Demon Lord said. Taotai restaurant these days, Bufang had taught Wenren Shang how to use the kitchen. Wenren Shang was indeed a chef, who had the chance to become a special-grade chef. He was much more talented than ordinary people. He quickly grasped the cooking methods of the kitchen utensils. At the same time, Bufang was also preparing to enter the Endless Sea. Entering the sea was not an easy task. After all, the ocean was boundless, and its power was terrifying. If one was not prepared, one could easily be swallowed by the ocean. Of course, there were also countless delicacies in the ocean, so the tools needed to be properly prepared. Fishing rods, fishing nets, and other fishing tools were all thrown into the system-dimensional bag. At the same time, he also asked the system for a compendium of creatures in the Endless Sea, which recorded the information of most of the creatures in the sea. This understanding was necessary, because only with such a detailed understanding could Bufang better judge whether the marine creatures should be fried or steamed. Finally, after all the preparations were completed, several days had passed. On this day, the sky was high and the air was cool, with no clouds in 10,000 miles. In the Taotai restaurant, Bufang pulled Xiaopi off Xiao Bai's head, placing it on his shoulder. Xiao Bai's eyes twinkled. Xiao Bai's evolution was completed. However, after the evolution, Xiao Bai's entire body was flickering with electric arcs. It seemed to be the side effect of eating the lightning punishment. Regarding this, Bufang did not have a better solution. Originally, Bufang wanted to directly use the transportation gate in the kitchen. However, after thinking about it carefully, he realized that you could not enter the kitchen. Hence, Bufang could only settle for the second best option, which was to use the main road to go to the Endless Sea. Bufang's original intention was to borrow the Netherworld ship from you and return it after returning from the Endless Sea. However, you did not agree. This woman was determined to follow Bufang to the Endless Sea for the steamed lobster. Of course, Lord Go was too lazy to go with her. Hades' Era, on the other hand, was in a good mood. However, recently, this clown seemed to have some mysterious things to do. Hence, it was a pity that he could not go with Bufang. Thus, on this trip to the Endless Sea, only Bufang, you, Xiao Bai, and Xiaopi would come. Oh, there was also Hua. After Bufang and you walked out of the Glutton God City, this little girl eagerly followed them. Bufang originally wanted to reject this little girl. However, Hua, this little girl, rolled her triflower snake eyes, looking at Bufang. She hugged Yu's thigh, which made Yu agree to bring Hua along. What else could Bufang say? Yu stood outside the Glutton God City. Her long black hair cascaded. A moment later, a flow of energy was released, fluttering. Buzz, the Netherworld ship instantly enlarged, turning into a huge ship that covered the sky. It soared up into the sky, hovering in the sky. With a leap, Yu's figure landed on the deck. Hua's floral dress fluttered as she floated in the air. A moment later, she sat on the deck. Bufang, on the other hand, walked step by step, neither hurried nor slow. With each step, an invisible staircase appeared in front of him, allowing Bufang to step on the netherworld ship. Bufang, who was wearing the vermilion robe, wore a cold face. His robe fluttered in the wind. "Let's go to the endless sea." Standing at the front of the ship, the wind blew his hair. Bufang's eyes sparkled as he said faintly. Behind the netherworld ship, the energy was released, making the ship move forward. Outside the Valley of Gluttony, there were many cities, which were filled with experts from different holy lands. They seemed to sense something. They couldn't help but lift their heads to look at the sky. There, a pitch-black netherworld ship was sailing. The rising sun Saint Sovereign was extremely muscular. He stood on the city wall. Seeing Bufang, he smiled and greeted Bufang. He stuck his tongue out, licking his lips. The Demon King level demon frog meat was really delicious. Until now, he still couldn't forget it. Now, the experts from the Holy Lands were very polite to Bufang. When others were polite to him, Bufang would also nod his head in a friendly manner in response. Then, in everyone's eyes, the netherworld ship moved forward. Shortly, it left the Valley of Gluttony, gradually disappearing into the horizon. At the same time, in the central hidden dragon royal court, on a majestic black mountain, a warship emitting a cold, metallic light rumbled as it flew out, heading toward the endless sea. On the warship, many experts from the ruined prison were standing. Their terrifying auras emitted from their bodies. Those experts from the ruined prison had solemn eyes. They wore fearsome black armor, and the leader was an expert from the demon frog race. They were good at water, so they were the main force of this army. The ruined prison's experts' fighting will was surging. Not being able to conquer the Valley of Gluttony was a big blow to them. However, this time, they changed their target to the vast endless sea. This made them excited. They could fight again. They could get more resources to strengthen themselves. The Valley of Gluttony was located in the center of the hidden dragon continent. If they didn't use the transportation formation and chose to fly, it would take around 5 to 6 days to reach the coast of the continent. And it was the shortest route. The netherworld ship was really fast. After a series of rumbles, it drew a black line in the sky. 6 days passed. Bufang, who was sitting on the deck, finally moved his eyes, looking at the horizon in the distance. A salty sea breeze blew over, hitting Bufang's face, making Bufang feel cool. In his ears, he could faintly hear the sound of the waves hitting the shore. It seemed they had reached the endless sea. Bufang's eyes shot out light. He stood up from the deck, facing the sea breeze and looking forward. The sky was blue and boundless. White clouds were quietly floating in the sky. In the distance, the sky and the sea were connected. There was a line between the sky and the sea. The scorching sun was high up in the sky, blooming with extreme radiance. The scorching light sprinkled on the sea, making it sparkling. The sea breeze blew, shattering the surface of the sea. It looked like crushed gold was sprinkled on the sea, piling up. The scene down there changed at a speed naked eyes could observe. The netherworld ship was flying fast. Below them was a continuous mountain range. Sometimes, roars of beasts could be heard from the mountain range. As they moved forward, the green color of the mountain range gradually decreased. What replaced it was a gold-like beach. The beach had layers of folds, which were piled up by seawater. Along with the rumbling sound, the netherworld ship floated down from the sky toward the endless sea. You got out of the deck, standing on the deck. She turned her head to look at Bufang. Then, her slender fingers moved as if she was making a seal. The flying netherworld ship began to descend. Rumble! The sand and stones on the ground flew up. The layers of folds on the beach were destroyed. Landing safely on the ground, he was greeted by the salty and fishy sea breeze. Directly in front of him was the boundless sea that stretched as far as the eye could see. The waves were calm, not as turbulent as the rumors said. "This is the endless sea," you said. Bufang nodded. They weren't in a hurry to enter the sea. Instead, they stopped here. Bufang gently leaped, stepping off the deck and landing on the beach. The sand and stones on the ground were soft and a little moist. Stepping on them felt like stepping on a sponge. Bufang's eyes slightly focused as he walked on the beach. Let's take a break. Tomorrow we will enter the sea. I will look for some seafood. Tonight we will taste the delicious seafood. As you and the others sat on the deck, Bufang's faint voice rang in their ears. Eating seafood tonight? But they hadn't entered the sea yet. Where would they get seafood? Yu was a little bewildered. Thinking about it, Yu also jumped up, following Bufang's footstep. Of course, Bufang didn't care much about Yu, who was following them. The coast of the Hidden Dragon continent was really dangerous, so there weren't many people. Bufang had walked for a long time, but he hadn't seen a single shadow. This was a sharp contrast to the lively beaches in his previous life. Bufang walked slowly with his hands in his hand. It was unknown when she had taken off her shoes, but now she was walking barefooted on the beach. The waves came crashing over, slapping against her feet. The sea breeze blew, causing her pitch-black dress to flutter. Her hair fluttered in the wind, and it was a beautiful sight to behold. Bufang, do you want to enter the sea now? Otherwise, how can we eat seafood tonight? Yu asked. Bufang glanced at Yu. Who says that we have to enter the sea to eat seafood? There are also delicious food on the beach. Is Bufang blind? The ground is covered with sand. Where did the seafood come from? Nethery was taken aback. You don't believe me? Bufang glanced at Yu, the corners of his mouth rising. Then, he took out a bottle from the system-dimensional bag. That bottle was filled with crystal salt, the seasoning that Bufang usually used in cooking. Reaching out, he grabbed a handful of crystal salt and sprinkled it on the beach in front of Yu. And then, Yu looked at Bufang, her face expressionless. And then the seafood came out, Bufang said. Yu rolled her eyes. Bufang must be a fool. All of a sudden, Yu's eyes shrank. She lowered her head to look at the beach. She saw that the beach under her feet was shaking. The sand on the place where the crystal salt was sprinkled was overturned. It seemed like a giant creature was about to come out. Chapter 9:26. Sizzle. 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 Nethery's pupils constricted slightly. She was a little surprised. Bufang's feet stepped on the ground. His body took a step back. The corners of his mouth rose as he looked at the place where the crystal salt was sprinkled. All of a sudden, a water arrow shot out from the ground. Yu frowned. Her body seemed to teleport, reappearing far away. The beach exploded, and a creature half the size of a human got out of it. What's that? You dare to scare me? Yu's face was cold. She indifferently glanced at the creature that got out of the beach. She said coldly, raising one hand. Nether energy twirled around her palm. Then nether rush. Boom! Under Bufang's speechless eyes, the dragon-purple razor clam, which had just gotten out of the beach, was smashed into pieces by Yu's nether rush. That dragon-purple razor clam was just a spirit beast at the Supreme Being realm. How could it resist Yu's attack? The razor clam's shell exploded, and the minced meat scattered on the ground. A piece of clam meat fell by Bufang. Bufang looked at Yu begrudgingly. He squatted, grabbing that piece of meat and squeezing it. It didn't feel bad. It's not a bad ingredient. Unfortunately, it's smashed. The seafood ingredient you mentioned is this thing? Can it be eaten? At this moment, Nethery came to her senses and realized that she seemed to have done something stupid. Anyway, what could she do? It was just a clam. So what if it was destroyed? Of course, it's edible. It tastes good. Bufang looked at Yu, but he didn't blame her. Actually, he didn't blame her. Dragon-purple razor clams were common on the beach. Bufang clasped his hands behind his back and strode forward slowly. Yu followed Bufang quietly this time. She looked at Bufang in confusion. She seemed to notice that Bufang's steps were a little strange. Although they were both walking, Bufang had stealthily covered his feet with his mental energy. This allowed him to clearly feel the changes in the energy on the beach with every step he took. The dragon purple razor clam was hidden deep in the beach. If they wanted to get it out, they couldn't just sprinkle salt on the ground. He had to find their ventilation holes and sprinkle salt there. Naturally, he would be able to lure them out. It's here. Bufang stepped on the sand, which was much softer than the surrounding, and sprinkled a handful of crystal salt on it. The white salt was sprinkled on the golden beach, making it look even more dazzling and eye-catching. You gazed at the ground. Shortly after, her eyes shrank again. The beach, which had nothing before, suddenly boiled. Sand and rocks rolled on both sides. Then, another dragon purple razor clam crawled out of the sand. It was a shell-type creature. Its shell glowed with a faint purple hue, with many patterns on it. With a closer look, those patterns looked like a dragon's head. It was the dragon purple razor clam that Bufang had mentioned. It was a delicious ingredient. Of course, you didn't think so. It was because she couldn't see where this thing could be eaten. As soon as the dragon purple razor clam appeared, the water arrow shot towards Bufang. Bufang smiled faintly. His mental energy rippled. Then, the dragon purple razor clam couldn't move anymore. The water arrow shattered. Bufang patted the razor clam's shell. He gently grabbed the razor clam, walking towards the sea. The sea waves came. Bufang's feet stepped on the surface of the sea, coming to a place where the water was quite deep. He washed the razor clam, cleaning all the sand and sand inside. Bufang held the razor clam with one hand. His other hand swung, throwing the jar of crystal salt to you, who was watching from a distance. This crystal salt is for you. You should bring more razor clams back. I'm going to grill them, Bufang said casually. Then, he continued to tread on the waves, carrying the giant dragon purple razor clam back to the netherworld ship. Xiaobai and Hua also got off the ship. Letting Xiaobai clean the dragon purple razor clam, Bufang began to build a grill on the beach. The black turtle constellation walk appeared, pounding on the beach. Bufang also took out the iron wire mesh left from the grill. He wove them into an iron net, placing it on top of the black turtle constellation walk. Opening his mouth, he spurted a dark gold flame. It was the heaven and earth obsidian flame, which had an extremely high temperature. Actually, at Bufang's current level, the heaven and earth obsidian flame couldn't satisfy his daily need. This dark gold heaven and earth obsidian flame couldn't cook many ingredients. Although the temperature of the rare heaven and earth flame was high, it was a little strenuous to cook Demon King grade ingredient. If it weren't for Bufang's mental force, it would be really hard to cook Demon King grade ingredients. If he encountered stronger ingredients in the future, Bufang understood that the power of the heaven and earth obsidian flame wouldn't be enough. Could it be that there was a higher grade flame above the heaven and earth obsidian flame? Bufang thought, but he didn't think too much. Even if he thought too much, it wouldn't work. As soon as the fire was done, the iron net's temperature rose. Hua sat cross-legged on the beach, curiously looking at the flame burning in the black turtle constellation walk. In her triflower snake eyes, the flame danced unceasingly, reflecting in her pupils. Sizzle! Sizzle! Bufang received the dragon purple razor clam from Xiaobai, placing it on the grill. The heaven and earth obsidian flame burst out, shaking the dragon purple razor clam. Seizing this chance, Bufang took out the ingredients he had prepared in the system's dimensional bag. Holding the purple garlic in his hand, the dragon bone kitchen knife spun in his hand, mincing the garlic. Then, he added some oil and wine, turning them into seasonings. Sizzle! Sizzle! The dragon purple razor clam was grilled, and its juice dripped unceasingly. When the juice fell on the flame, it evaporated instantly, turning into white steam that rose. The color of the dragon purple razor clam's meat changed at a speed naked eyes could observe. A meaty aroma slowly arose. Patter! The dragon purple razor clam's shell opened, revealing the white and tender clam meat inside. The fat, white, and tender razor clam's flesh gradually bulged, revealing a bright and beautiful color. A little bit of oil seeped out from it. At the same time, Bufang brushed the oil on the razor clam's meat. It made the razor clam's meat more radiant. The aroma rose, tickling people's taste buds. Hua looked at the delicious razor clam's meat, and he couldn't help but feel excited. Far from them, Yu had learned Bufang's method, luring the dragon purple razor clam. However, she didn't know the details, so she didn't dare to add salt. All of a sudden, Yu squinted. She found a spot, grabbed a handful of salt, and sprinkled it on the razor clam. Then, her slender legs strode away. Her long black hair cascaded, and her pitch-black eyes gazed at the spot where she had sprinkled salt on the razor clam. It had been a long time, but nothing happened. Did I make a mistake? Yu furrowed her brows. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be a mistake. Yu held the jar, walking to the spot where she had sprinkled salt. All of a sudden, the beach began to shake. This shaking was so violent that even Bufang and the others, who were grilling in the distance, couldn't help but look skeptically. Boom! The beach exploded. In just a blink of an eye, a giant shadow stormed out of the beach. A water arrow as thick as a water column shot down. Nethery moved sideways, leaving many afterimages as she dodged the attacks of the water columns. Then, Yu lifted her head to look at the creature in front of her. At first glance, she couldn't help but take in a breath of cold air. What a big dragon purple razor clam! It was a dragon purple razor clam that was as big as a house. The dragon patterns on its body glowed faintly, as if they were about to burst out a dazzling radiance. From a distance, Bufang's eyes shrank when he saw the dragon purple razor clam. That woman's luck is so good? She found the dragon purple razor clam king. The dragon purple razor clam king is an ingredient of the divine physique echelon realm. Its taste is much better, Bufang exclaimed. Then, the corners of his mouth twitched. Not good. I have to stop you. Otherwise, that woman will smash the dragon purple razor clam king again. However, Bufang's hands were still busy, and he didn't have time to spare. Turning his head to look at Hua, who was innocently looking at the golden, grilled razor clam meat, Bufang narrowed his eyes. Hua, sprinkle the seasoning evenly on the razor clam meat, okay? Bufang asked. Okay. Hua received the plate of seasoning from Bufang, nodding. Bufang's mouth curved. This little girl was so obedient. Then, he turned around and ran toward you. He wanted to save the dragon purple razor clam king. You looked at the giant dragon purple razor clam king. The nether energy on her body slowly rose. She raised a hand, and her eyes instantly became incomparably cold. Die, you said casually. Then, her figure shot out at high speed, as if she had turned into a stream of light. However, just as her attack was about to hit the dragon purple razor clam king, a shadow suddenly appeared in front of her, kicking the dragon purple razor clam king away. Boom! Rumble! The dragon purple razor clam king's giant body was kicked away. It rolled for a while, sending sand and stones everywhere. You didn't understand, looking at Bufang, who had stopped her. That's the dragon purple razor clam king. It's a delicious ingredient that's not weaker than the blood lobster. We have to be gentle with this ingredient, said Bufang. An ingredient that's not weaker than the blood lobster? Yu's eyes brightened. The braised blood lobster's taste popped up in her head. Swallowing her saliva, Yu nodded. Far from them, the dragon purple razor clam king planned to return to the beach. However, Bufang had appeared not far from it. You want to leave after showing your head? Bufang grabbed the razor clam's shell with one hand, slowly dragging the dragon purple razor clam king out of the sand. The dragon purple razor clam king was bewildered. It just came out to make some bubbles. After cleaning the dragon purple razor clam king, Bufang cut the dragon purple razor clam king's meat into small pieces, putting them into the system dimensional bag. Then, he brought you to the netherworld ship. According to his estimation, The razor clam's meat should be cooked by now. You also smelled the aroma in the air. She couldn't help but feel hungry. Turns out that thing could be cooked into a delicacy. It seemed anything in Bufang's hands would become delicious. So magical. However, when Bufang and you approached the netherworld ship, the corners of their mouths twitched, their faces emotionless. Next to the grill, Hua was grabbing the razor clam meat that was even bigger than her, gulping it down. She ate until her mouth was covered in oil and steam. The razor clam's meat was soaked in the purple garlic sauce that Bufang had prepared, and it emitted a rich fragrance. Purple garlic was still slowly rolling down the razor clam's meat. Chapter 9:27. Bufang didn't expect that Hua would eat the grilled razor clam. This little guy seemed to be a big foodie. The air was still filled with the lingering aroma of the grilled razor clam. The dragon purple razor clam was a top-notch existence among the oceanic species razor clams. It should be said that it was the ultimate delicacy of the clam. Especially after it was grilled, it would taste even more enchanting when it was sprinkled with the sauce that Bufang had prepared. Although Hua had eaten the grilled razor clam, Bufang and you didn't blame Hua. The two of them sat around the grill. From the system-dimensional bag, Bufang took out the dragon purple razor clam king meat that had been cleaned and cut into pieces. He spread the meat evenly on the grill, and the juice dripped into the heaven and earth obsidian flame in the black turtle constellation Hua. The sizzling sound echoed unceasingly. One could see with naked eyes that the heaven and earth obsidian flame was burning the juice and evaporating it. The steam hit the razor clam meat on the grill, making the meat shiver. The color of the meat also changed at a speed naked eyes could observe. The razor clam meat was easy to cook. However, since it was the razor clam king, it took a little longer to cook. In the air, a thick aroma diffused. It was the aroma of the razor clam meat after it had turned golden. Bufang took out the oil he had prepared and swept it on the razor clam meat. Instantly, the razor clam meat became a dazzling golden color. Vaguely, a faint radiance shot out. The eyes of Hua and Yu, who were sitting around, brightened. Hua was so happy that he opened his mouth wide. Saliva dripped from his mouth. His triflower snake eyes were moving unceasingly. His joy couldn't be described in words. He flipped the razor clam meat on the grill and continued to steam it. The temperature in front of him had become extremely high, and the air above the grill seemed to be slightly twisted. Looking down from above, one could only see that within the dark golden flames there seemed to be a hint of fiery red dancing. He took out the purple garlic and scale-tail scallion, cut them into small pieces, and mixed them together. Then, he took out the jar of abyssal chili sauce and scooped half a spoonful of chili into a bowl. He mixed the chili sauce, the chopped purple garlic, and the scale-tail scallion together and stirred them. Then, he poured in the smooth oil and a few drops of Iceheart jade urn wine. After stirring for a while, Bufang adjusted the new sauce, and at this moment, the razor clam meat on the grill had completely matured. The razor clam's crystal rod was slightly curled up. Taking out a pair of long and narrow chopsticks, Bufang grabbed the chopsticks and easily flicked the razor clam meat on the grill. Then, it fell into the flat porcelain bowl that he had prepared beforehand. With a splashing sound, the razor clam meat splashed with oil fell into the bowl. Bufang smeared some chili sauce on it. A plate of barbecued razor clams was officially completed. Bufang gave the first one to you. You had found this razor clam king, so you deserved the first dish. You didn't have any reaction to this. Her face was still like an ancient well, without a ripple, without joy or sorrow. However, her slightly raised red lips showed the joy in her heart. Receiving the flat porcelain bowl that Bufang handed to her, you looked at the steaming hot razor clam meat smeared with the sauce. She couldn't help but take a deep breath. The aroma of the razor clam meat entered her nose, stimulating her taste buds. It smelled good. Very good. After taking a deep breath, Nethery felt that her appetite had been completely stimulated. She grabbed the chopsticks, smoothing the sauce that Bufang had poured on the razor clam, making the sauce evenly cover the golden razor clam meat, covering its radiance. Picking up the razor clam meat, she put the steaming hot meat into her mouth. Pouting her red lips, you blew out a breath of hot air. Then, she opened her mouth, taking a bite. The sauce splashed. A piece of razor clam meat was bitten off, mixing with the sauce as it entered her mouth. The moment she started chewing, Nethery was dumbfounded. The thick taste of the razor clam exploded in her mouth, causing her fair face to reveal an incredulous expression. She chewed faster, and the elastic meat bounced unceasingly in her mouth, pounding against the walls of her oral cavity. She felt as if she was being covered by the smooth razor clam meat, and the feeling of seawater hitting her instantly. The spicy sauce was just right. Together with the aroma of the purple garlic and scale-tail scallion, along with a little bit of wine, it blended with the taste of the razor clam meat, bringing out the best in each other. It was simply delicious. You took a bite. After chewing for a while, she swallowed the razor clam meat. Instantly, her entire body shivered, and she exhaled a mouthful of white gas. Delicious, right? Bufang looked at Yu's face of enjoyment. The corners of his mouth rose, asking faintly. His hands didn't stop working. His chopsticks moved, and a piece of razor clam meat, which was grilled until it was golden yellow, was picked up, falling into a flat porcelain bowl. Pouring a portion of chili, he gave it to the little girl. Although the little girl had secretly eaten the razor clam meat, the taste was still different. However, the taste of the normal razor clam meat and the razor clam king's meat was somewhat different. Moreover, the sauce had to be applied carefully. Thus, the razor clam meat that the little girl had eaten wasn't really perfect, and now it was the perfect one. A mouthful of razor clam meat made Hua gawk. She couldn't help but whimper. Apparently, she regretted that she had been too hasty. Gulp. Hua's neck enlarged. She had swallowed the entire piece of razor clam meat. Seizing the chance when they were eating happily, Bufang also picked up a piece of razor clam meat and ate it. Indeed, the taste was really good. The grilled, golden razor clam meat emitted a thick aroma. That aroma lingered in people's mouths and nostrils, making them sink into it. The night was getting darker. 2 crescent moons hung in the sky, radiating cold radiance. They were reflected on the vast sea. The surroundings were quiet. As long as the sea breeze blew, the waves would rumble. A series of waves came from afar, rapidly approaching. In the end, they smashed onto the beach and shattered. The air was filled with the aroma, which made people's appetite increase. Xiao Hua lay down on the beach happily, rubbing his swollen belly as he exhaled. You didn't exaggerate. However, she was also sitting on the beach, hugging her slender, white legs, looking at the endless sea. Sometimes, when looking at the sea was really beautiful. The sea breeze blew, fluttering Yu's black dress and long, black hair. Bufang was lying on the beach, using his head as a pillow. The black turtle constellation walk was placed next to him, where the heaven and earth obsidian flame was burning. Everything was so quiet. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the 3 of them felt a little lazy. Xiao Bai had lightning arcs moving on his body. He stood not far from Bufang, his mechanical eyes twinkling unceasingly. At some point, Shrimpy was lying on its round head again. From time to time, it would be struck by the lightning arcs, causing its body to tremble. The sea is really a good place. As the night deepened, a leisurely sigh quietly resounded in the air. Under the pitch-black night sky, the vast sea surged. A cold, metal battleship was sailing on the sea. This big ship easily rode the wind and the wave. On the deck of the battleship, figures wrapped in black robes stood. These people were the demon kings of the ruined prison. Unbelievable! The endless sea is full of vitality. Compared to the dead sea of our ruined prison, this sea is really full of vitality. A demon king sighed emotionally. The surging waves came crashing down, and water splashed everywhere. The demon master raised his hand, and his energy dissipated, instantly enveloping the clear water spray. The water was covered, floating in front of the demon king. He took a deep breath. The fishy and salty smell of the seawater excited the demon lord. Endless sea. This lord seems to smell a lot of delicious things. Rumble! A huge wave came, causing the battleship to shake violently. Although the battleship was swaying left and right, it was still so strong. It still broke through the waves, moving forward. When Bufang opened his eyes, the salty seawater splashed on his face, causing him to quiver involuntarily. In front of him, the sky was already bright. The dazzling sun rose high into the sky, stretching as far as the eye could see. The clear blue sky attracted people's eyes. A night passed just like that. Turning his head to look, Yu was sitting on the deck of the netherworld ship, swinging her beautiful, white legs. Hua was standing on the edge of the sea, giggling as she stepped on the sea water. Rubbing his neck, Bufang stood up. Facing the cool sea breeze, he couldn't help but exhale. It's time to go. After calling the little girl back, everyone returned to the netherworld ship. The netherworld ship, which had stopped for a night, moved forward again under Yu's control. Rumble! The netherworld ship moved forward, breaking through the sea water, slowly moving forward. The sea and sky were one color, but a pitch-black netherworld ship broke this harmony. On the netherworld ship, Yu expressionlessly looked at Bufang. "Where is our destination?" Yu asked. "The Black Dragon King's Dragon Palace. That guy invited us there," replied Bufang. Yu crossed her arms in front of her chest, indifferently looking at Bufang. "Tell me, which direction is the Black Dragon King's Dragon Palace?" Bufang was bewildered, his face bewildered. He walked to the deck of the ship, looking around at the boundless, endless sea. For a moment, the corner of his mouth twitched. He had actually forgotten a serious matter, and that was, he didn't know where the Black Dragon King's Dragon Palace was. Dare he ask where it was? "Don't look at me. I don't know either. The Black Dragon King's Dragon Palace isn't a secret realm. It's not within the netherworld ship's sensing range," said Yu. "If it was a secret realm, the netherworld ship could easily break through the void to get there." Bufang was a little speechless. He turned around, walking into the cabin. Not long after, he came out with the gold Xiaopi, walking to the deck. "Xiaopi, as the shrimp ancestor, you should know where the Black Dragon Palace of the Endless Sea is, right?" Bufang picked up Whitey seriously, looked into its eyes and said, "I'll be fine." However, Shrimpy was still spitting bubbles from its mouth and rolling its eyes. It did not utter a single word of nonsense. After looking at each other for a long time, Bufang felt his eyes were a little sore. Then, he put Xiaopi back on Xiao Bai's head. Walking to the deck, Bufang looked at Yu. "No other way. I can only go to the sea to catch a big guy to ask about the road and bring some food up. Wait for me to come back." Bufang looked at Yu, saying. Then, Bufang stepped on the railing of the netherworld ship. With one step, his body shot out like a straight arrow, jumping into the sea. Hua looked at this scene, cheering and jumping. He planned to follow Bufang's footsteps and jump into the sea. However, as soon as he jumped into the air, Yu pulled him back. "Be good and stay here. Don't be naughty," Yu said calmly. As soon as her voice fell, the netherworld ship fiercely shook. The sea was surging unceasingly, as if a terrifying beast was stirring the water. Swish! In the distance, the sea water exploded, and a giant fish tail shot up from the place where Bufang had jumped into. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.